Welcome to SnoozyTor, where history doesn't shout, it whispers. Here we don't tell stories of heroes and victories. We tell the quiet ones, of men who laughed beside fires, who dreamed beneath armor, and who faced the end not with glory, but with grace. Tonight you'll travel through frost, mud, and smoke, aboard a steel giant called Tiger. You'll feel the cold of her armor, the warmth of her crew, and the slow heartbeat of a war that refused to stop breathing. This is not just a story of battle. It's a story of endurance, of brotherhood, of a machine that became home, and of the moment when soldiers learned to let go. So take a deep breath, let the noise of the world fade away, and close your eyes, because tonight, the Tiger still faces east, and she's waiting for you. The first time you see her, she's sleeping under frost, a hulking shape crouched beside the rail yard, half buried in snow and exhaust. The mechanics call her the Tiger, but up close she feels less like a machine and more like something alive. Something that breathes through steel lungs and dreams in diesel fumes. You stand there a long moment, watching the way sunlight catches her armor, turning chipped gray paint into dull silver. Even silent, she demands attention. Even broken, she looks invincible. Fritz, the driver, pats her side with a kind of affection only soldiers give to monsters. "Beautiful, isn't she?" he says. His breath makes ghosts in the cold air. You nod because you don't know what else to say. She is beautiful, but in the way a storm is beautiful. You admire her from a distance, hoping she never notices you. The rail yard smells of rust and wet coal. Steam hisses from somewhere unseen. Mechanics shout in Bavarian accents, dragging hoses and tools, banging on panels. The noise is constant, industrial, like the inside of a clock. In the middle of it all stands your home. 57 tons of metal, bolts, and danger. Weber, the commander, appears beside you. His greatcoat is buttoned tight, his cap squared perfectly. "You're the new loader," he says. You nod again. He doesn't smile. "Good. Tigers eat a lot." He gestures for you to climb up. The steel ladder bites through your gloves as you pull yourself onto the hull. From up here, the world looks smaller. The other tanks, Panzers, Stugs, half-tracks, seem like toys compared to her. Fritz is already inside, cursing softly about the cold fuel lines. Otto, the gunner, leans out of the turret, a cigarette clinging to his lower lip, eyes sharp and humorless. "Careful," he warns. The hatch eats fingers. Inside, the Tiger smells like oil and iron and men who've been inside too long. The walls sweat condensation. Everything you touch feels cold enough to burn. There's no space to stand straight. Every inch is claimed by levers, shells, gauges, wires. It's a world built for function, not comfort. Your shoulders brush steel no matter where you move. Emil, the radio operator, nods from his corner. He's small and quiet, face smudged with grease, humming something under his breath. The kind of tune people hum when they're trying not to think. He doesn't introduce himself. He doesn't need to. In a Tiger, introductions are unnecessary. What matters is trust and reflex. Weber climbs in last, closing the hatch behind him. The sound it makes, heavy, final, cuts off the outside world like a door to a vault. The dim light from the periscope slits paints narrow bars across the cabin. For a moment, you realize how truly trapped you are. 5 men in a metal box, with only an engine between you and the snow. Fritz hits the starter switch. Nothing. He mutters something unprintable in Swabian dialect. Tries again. A low growl stirs under the floor, deep and uncertain. Then suddenly a roar. The Maybach engine comes alive like an animal awakening from hibernation. The entire hull vibrates. You feel it in your teeth, your ribs, your spine. The Tiger breathes. Weber's voice cuts through the noise. All stations check systems. Otto confirms the traverse motor. Emil taps the radio. Fritz runs a hand over the throttle, whispering to the controls as if they can hear him. You reach for the first shell, just practiced today, and lift it onto the loading tray. It's heavier than you expected, 30 kilos of cold promise. You slide it in, lock the breech, step back. Everything happens by instinct, even though it's your first time. Weber nods slightly. Good. Keep that rhythm. In battle, rhythm is survival. Outside, snow starts falling again, thick flakes melting against the warm armor. You can't see much from inside, just the faint blur through the slit, but you hear everything. The crunch of boots on frost, the distant rumble of another engine starting, the metallic clang of a dropped wrench. Every sound seems amplified, trapped within the tiger's ribs. Ready for movement, Fritz says. Weber gives the order. The tiger lurches forward, slow at first, treads groaning, snow cracking beneath 60 tons. You grab a handhold as your balance shifts. It's not like riding a car, it's like riding an earthquake. Every jolt reminds you how fragile the human body is compared to the beast you're inside. Through the periscope, you catch glimpses of the world slipping by. Fences, frozen mud, skeletal trees bowing under ice. The tiger's shadow stretches across the white landscape like a bruise. The air smells faintly of smoke and anticipation. Weber finally speaks, voice low but steady. Remember this sound, he says. This engine. It's your heartbeat now. If it stops, so do you. The others nod without looking up. It's not bravado, it's acceptance. You feel it too. You're part of her now, for better or worse. A muscle in her body. A breath in her chest. You shift your weight, finding balance as she moves smoother, faster, more certain. For a fleeting moment, pride sneaks in, a dangerous warmth. The tiger moves like a god of war, slow and unstoppable, her treads writing scars into the frozen earth. You think maybe we're untouchable. Then Weber says, never believe that. The wind howls outside. Inside, the steel heart keeps beating. And you realize you've stepped into something that won't end soon. The hatch rattles once more. The tiger exhales smoke into the snow. The war has begun. You wake before dawn, not because anyone orders you to, but because the tiger never really sleeps. Even when the engine is off, she hums quietly, metal cooling, gears settling, armor expanding against the cold. The air inside tastes faintly of oil and stale breath. Someone snores softly. Probably Fritz. He snores like the tank itself, rhythmic, mechanical, unstoppable. The first thing you learn about life inside a tiger is that there is no privacy. You live elbow to elbow, boot to boot, thought to thought. There's no corner you can claim for yourself. The walls are too close, the air too heavy, and the smell, it never goes away. Sweat, gunpowder, grease, smoke, it seeps into everything. Into you. You sit up, banging your head against the turret rim. Otto grins without looking up from his morning ritual, cleaning the gun sight for the 5th time this week. Congratulations, he says dryly. You've officially joined the club. What club? You mutter, rubbing the bruise. The club of men who will never stand straight again, he replies. Outside, the camp stirs to life. Engines cough, boots crunch in snow, voices call out in clipped German. Emil fiddles with the radio, tapping the receiver like it owes him money. Fritz mumbles something about coffee, even though you all know there's none left. Weber sits by the open hatch, smoking in silence, his breath forming small ghosts in the pale morning light. He's not the shouting kind of commander. That makes him more dangerous. When Weber speaks, people listen. When he's quiet, people try not to. Today is a training run, or so they say. You've heard that phrase enough to know it means someone else got blown up yesterday. The tiger is already idling, steam curling off her engine deck. Fritz loves that sound. He calls it her morning growl. You load the shells carefully, one by one. They clank into their racks, cold and indifferent. Armor piercing. High explosive. Smoke. You've learned to handle them like glass, even though each one could tear a tank apart. The loader's job isn't glamorous. It's rhythm, precision, endurance. You lift, lock, pull, repeat. You breathe with the gun. Weber checks his watch, taps the hatch twice and says, "Let's move." The tiger rolls forward, snow crunching under her tracks. The world narrows again to the slit of your vision, the heartbeat of the engine, the constant vibration beneath your boots. Outside, the horizon is white and endless. Inside, time loses shape. Seconds feel like hours. Hours like seconds. Then suddenly, radio static. Emil stiffens, adjusts the dial, listens. A voice crackles through the noise. Enemy armor sighted, North Ridge, 3 clicks. Weber's tone doesn't change. Change of plan. Fritz north. Otto, load armor piercing. Loader, stand ready. You freeze for a fraction of a second. Then the drill takes over. Grab the shell. Seat it. Lock it. Step back. The gun hums with tension. Outside, the light changes. Shadows shift. You see it now through the periscope. Dark shapes on the ridge, crawling forward through the snow. Tanks. Not German. Soviet. Weber's voice stays calm, almost lazy. Range, Otto? 800 meters. Fire when ready. The gun speaks. The 88mm roars and the entire world seems to tilt. You stumble back as the shell leaves the barrel, your chest vibrating from the concussion. A second later, a bloom of orange flares on the ridge. The first target burns. Otto exhales slowly. Hit. You're already loading the next round. The shell slides into the breech, smooth, practiced, inevitable. Second target, left, Weber orders. Fire again. Smoke fills the cabin. You can taste metal in your mouth. Another explosion on the horizon. Otto grins briefly. That's two. But the return fire comes fast. The Tiger shudders as a shell slams into the front armor. The sound is terrifying, like a hammer hitting the inside of your skull. The tank rocks but doesn't breach. Fritz laughs nervously. They hit us. Weber doesn't blink. Then they know where we are. Loader, faster. You move without thinking now. Shell breach, lock, fire. Over and over. Each shot feels heavier than the last, but you don't stop. You can't. Not while the others are depending on you. Another impact. Sparks dance across the turret wall. The air smells of hot steel. Otto swears, adjusts the sight, and fires again. This time, silence follows. Smoke drifts across the periscope view. The ridge is empty except for black shapes and burning silhouettes. Weber lowers his binoculars. Cease fire. The engine idles low, growling softly. You realize your hands are shaking. Your throat burns from the fumes. Otto hands you a rag without a word. You wipe your face, then sit down, breathless, listening to the ticking of cooling metal. Weber looks at the crew one by one. That was the easy part, he says quietly. Fritz chuckles weakly. Then what's the hard part? Weber exhales smoke through his nose, waiting for the next time. Outside, the snow keeps falling, gentle, patient, uncaring. Inside, 5 men sit in silence, surrounded by smoke, sweat, and the faint hum of victory. You touch the steel wall beside you. It's warm now, alive. You understand what Otto meant. You've been baptized, not in water, but in steel. You start to realize after a few weeks inside the Tiger that the tank is not just a machine, it's a small world. A brutal, noisy, breathing world with its own weather, language, and gravity. Everything revolves around it: sleep, food, hope, fear. The Tiger decides when you eat, when you rest, and when you fight. The crew only exists to keep her heart beating. Inside her steel ribs, 5 men learn to orbit each other like planets. No one speaks about it, but every movement is choreography now. When you reach for a shell, Otto steps aside without looking. When Fritz grinds through a gear change, you all brace instinctively. When Weber raises his hand, everyone falls silent. It's not discipline, it's survival. Fritz, the driver, is built like a bear and swears like a priest. He loves the Tiger more than he's ever loved a woman. He calls her Fräulein Eisenhart, Miss Ironhide. He polishes her dials, hums to the engine, and talks to her when no one's listening. She listens, you know, he insists. If you treat her right, she won't let you die stupid. You half believe him. Fritz can coax life out of dead batteries and warmth out of frozen oil. He's half mechanic, half magician. And when the tank lurches into motion, he becomes its pulse. Otto the gunner is different. Thin, pale, surgical. He's the kind of man who measures his words before firing them. His right eye twitches when he's focusing through the sight. Something he can't control, something you've grown to trust. You've watched him take a kilometer-long shot in wind and fog, breathing so quietly it's like he disappears between heartbeats. Otto doesn't miss. That's not arrogance, it's arithmetic. Emil, the radio operator, is the quiet ghost of the crew. He's small, younger than the rest, with soot smudged permanently into the creases of his hands. He listens to static for hours, hearing music where others hear nothing. When he does speak, it's usually to deliver bad news. New orders, lost supply lines, nearby movement. Once he told a joke, just once. It was terrible. You laughed anyway. It felt like hearing a song through snow. And then there's Weber, the commander, the anchor. Nobody knows how old he is. 40? 50? He carries himself like he's older than the war itself. He's not loud, not cruel, not sentimental. Just steady. His face could have been carved from the same steel as the hull. He sees everything. The way Fritz's hands shake after a near miss. The way Otto stares too long at the barrel after each battle. The way you rub your shoulder when it aches from loading too fast. He notices but never comments. His silence holds the crew together better than any speech could. And you, just you, the loader. The youngest. The nameless hand that feeds the tiger's hunger. You lift, load, slam, repeat. Each shell a heartbeat. Each recoil a breath. You've stopped thinking about what happens outside the armor. You just listen to the rhythm. Fritz's curses, Otto's counting, Emil's static, Weber's calm. Together it sounds like music, the ugly, relentless music of survival. Between missions, life shrinks to the essentials. You eat from tins that taste like rust. You sleep in shifts, head resting on the recoil guard, boots still on. Sometimes Fritz snores so loud it feels like an air raid. Otto throws bolts at him. Emil hums louder to drown them both out. And you, sometimes you dream of silence, the kind of silence that doesn't echo. Maintenance becomes ritual. Every man has a task. Fritz checks the engine and track tension. Otto cleans the breech, his movements deliberate and careful, like he's blessing it. Emil tunes the radio until he finds faint music, Vienna waltzes warped by static. You clean the shells, wipe away soot, oil the loading arm. Weber watches, saying nothing. When he does speak, it's only to remind you, if she breaks, you break with her. At night, when the tiger sleeps, you talk. Not about the war, not really. About food, women, stupid dreams. Fritz wants to open a garage when it's over. Otto says he'll never touch another gun again. Emil wants a bakery, of all things. Weber listens, smoking in the hatch, his face unreadable in the glow. When they ask what you'll do, you just shrug. You can't see that far ahead. Once you ask Weber if he ever gets scared. He exhales smoke and says, "Of course. But fear's just proof you're still human. Stop feeling it and you're already dead." That night, you write those words on the inside of your notebook cover. You don't know why. Maybe because you want to remember what being human sounds like. The next morning, frost has covered the tiger in a silver shell. Fritz whistles softly. "Looks like armor on armor," he says. Otto doesn't respond. He's already sighting the gun, testing elevation. Weber's reading the new orders. Another move. Another day. You brush the frost from the side skirt and see your reflection warped in the steel. 5 blurred faces inside one machine. 5 men, one beast. You no longer know where you end and the tiger begins. The morning starts with the sound of hammers. Somewhere outside, a mechanic is tightening a tread pin that's come loose overnight. The rhythmic clang carries through the fog, slow and steady, like a heartbeat trying to remind you you're still alive. You open your eyes to see frost blooming on the turret walls, thin white veins crawling across the steel. Breath fogs in front of your face. So cold even your thoughts feel stiff. Weber's already awake, reading a map under the faint light of a lantern. The paper looks brittle enough to shatter. Fritz sits by the open hatch, scraping frost from his boots with a knife. Otto cleans the 88mm gun again as if he can polish fear off the metal. Emil hums softly, tuning the radio, his voice somewhere between prayer and habit. Routine. That's what keeps you sane. Routine is the only religion that works inside a tiger. After breakfast, a crust of bread, 2 sips of something pretending to be coffee, you climb out to help Fritz with the tools. The air outside bites hard. You can smell diesel, burnt oil, and snow. Nearby, another tiger roars to life, coughing smoke into the frozen dawn. The sound rolls through your chest like thunder. Fritz hands you a wrench, eyes squinting through his fogged goggles. "She's been groaning," he says, patting the side armor. Front idlers stiff. Frozen grease again. You crouch beside him and start loosening the bolts. Metal bites skin through the gloves. Every scrape feels personal, like the tank resents you for touching her guts. After an hour, the tiger stops complaining and Fritz grins, satisfied. There. She just needed someone to listen. Weber's voice cuts through the cold. Mount up. The order is simple, but it changes the air instantly. Jokes stop. Movements sharpen. You climb back inside, each man sliding into his post like a gear locking into place. Weber checks the horizon through the periscope, where the light is still weak and colorless. "New orders," he says. "Patrol east. Possible contact by midday." Otto mutters, "Possible means certain." The tiger rumbles to life, her Maybach engine waking with a low growl. Fritz eases her forward, treads biting into the frozen mud. Inside, everything rattles, tools, ammo cases, bones. You brace one hand against the shell rack, the other gripping the safety bar. The cabin smells like metal and sweat, a scent you've learned to accept like family. You pass the wreck of an old Panzer half buried in snow, its turret blown clean off. A reminder, Weber says quietly, to respect what you drive. The Tiger is strong, but not immortal. The radio crackles. Emil leans in, adjusting the dial. Recon says enemy armor ahead. Light tanks. Scouts. Weber nods once. Stay alert. Otto, keep elevation low. Loader, ready AP. You reach for the shell, muscles already knowing the motion. It's heavy, smooth, and cold as river stone. You lift, slide lock. The breech clicks shut with a satisfying finality. The tank hums louder, impatient. Then, through the slit of light in the front viewport, movement, dark shapes on the horizon, small and fast. Soviet T-60s. Scouts, yes, but armed ones. They're coming along the tree line, their engines whining like angry bees. Range? Weber asks. 600, Otto replies. Fire when ready. The first shell leaves the barrel with a sound that tears the world open. The recoil shoves you back against the turret wall. Through the smoke, you see one of the enemy tanks vanish in a puff of flame and snow. Hit, Otto says, his voice even. You're already loading the next shell. You can feel your pulse syncing with the rhythm. Load, fire, reload. Each movement smooth, practiced, desperate. Another tank bursts into flames. Then another. But they're closing the distance now. Fast. You can hear their return fire clanging harmlessly off your armor, each impact ringing through the hull like a church bell. Fritz yells, they're flanking left. Weber doesn't flinch. Rotate turret. Loader, he. You swap shells, sweat slicking your gloves despite the cold. Otto tracks the movement, breathes once, fires. The explosion outside lights up the inside of the Tiger like lightning through a storm cloud. When the smoke clears, the last of them is fleeing, trailing black smoke. You sit back, panting. The inside of the tank smells like burnt powder and victory. Fritz laughs. Otto exhales. Emil hums again, quietly. Weber just nods once and says, well done. Outside, snow begins to fall again, covering the wrecks, the tracks, the scars. You realize how easily the land forgets. Back at camp that night, the men are louder than usual. Fritz tells the story 3 times, each with more detail and less accuracy. Otto rolls his eyes but doesn't correct him. Emil writes something in his small notebook. You don't ask what. Weber sits by the fire, silent, staring into the flames as if trying to read tomorrow. You sit beside him, nursing your tin of soup. We did well, you say. He nods, still watching the fire. You did. Then after a pause, it's easy to win a battle. The hard part is surviving the victories. You don't know what to say, so you say nothing. The flames crackle between you. The Tiger looms behind you both, her outline a black mountain against the snow. She's quiet now, but she's never truly still. You can feel it. She's dreaming of the next fight. It begins, as most things on the front do, without warning. You're halfway through lunch, hard bread, a smear of something that might have once been butter, when the radio crackles. Emil stiffens, pressing the receiver to his ear. A voice, rough and distant, breaks through the static. Enemy armor advancing, grid 42 north of the ridge. All available units prepare for contact. Weber doesn't hesitate. Mount up. The bread is forgotten. The Tiger wakes in seconds. Fritz leaps into the driver's seat, muttering curses like prayers. Otto slides behind the gun, his face suddenly carved from stone. You grab your gloves, your headset, your courage. Inside, it's chaos disguised as order, hands moving in perfect, desperate rhythm. Fritz flips the starter. The Maybach engine coughs, sputters, then growls to life. The entire hull vibrates, alive again. The smell of exhaust fills the cabin. Weber climbs into the cupola, binoculars pressed to his eyes. We move now. Otto, you'll have targets soon. You can feel it, the tension, electric, crawling under the skin of every man inside. The Tiger rolls forward, snow crunching under her tracks. The sky is the color of dirty wool. The world smells like smoke and frost. Emil adjusts his headset. 3 enemy tanks confirmed. Maybe 4. Light armor. Weber's voice stays calm, almost eerily so. Then we don't stop until there's none. You grip the shell, your hands remembering the motion before your mind does. Slide it into the breech. Lock it. Step back. The metal is freezing, your gloves slick with oil. Every sound, every breath, every click of a switch seems too loud. Fritz pushes the Tiger over a ridge. Beyond it, open fields stretch into the horizon, flat, white, and silent. For a moment it's almost peaceful. Then movement. Shadows flicker against the snow. Shapes. Tanks rolling through the mist, slow but deliberate. Otto sees them first. 3 T-34s. Maybe more behind. Weber, range? 700. Hold until 5. The waiting is worse than the fighting. You can feel your heartbeat in your fingertips, in your teeth. The Tiger crawls forward, slow, steady, the engines rumble blending with the faraway whine of enemy treads. Then Weber says quietly, fire. The world erupts. The 88mm cannon roars like thunder from inside a cave. The recoil slams through you, rattling your bones. Smoke fills the turret, sharp and hot. Through the periscope, you catch the flash of impact, AT-34 exploding in a bloom of fire and black smoke. Hit. Otto calls. Next target, Weber replies, calm as always. You're already loading the second round. Your arms ache, your breath fogs your visor, but you don't stop. The rhythm takes over. The Tiger is no longer a machine. It's an extension of your heartbeat. The second shot fires. Another hit. A plume of snow and shrapnel rises where the second tank stood. The third one fires back. The impact slams against your armor, a deafening clang that makes your ears ring. The Tiger shakes but holds. The smell of hot metal fills the air. Fritz swears, steering into cover, though there's little of it. Loader. Otto yells. You grab the next shell, slam it home. Ready? He fires. The recoil jolts your shoulder. The third tank goes up, flames licking the sky. Silence. Just for a moment. Then Emil says quietly, there's one more. You glance through the viewport and see it. Farther out, half hidden behind the husk of a burning T-34. Its gun turns slowly toward you. Otto mutters something you don't catch. Fritz grips the controls tighter. Weber doesn't move. Wait, he says. Let him commit. The seconds stretch thin. You can hear the ticking of the turret's gears, the faint crackle of distant fire. The enemy tank inches forward, exposing its side. Now, Weber whispers. Otto fires. The 88mm shell cuts through snow and smoke like a blade through silk. The enemy tank blooms in flame, the explosion echoing across the empty plain. You almost expect the ground itself to applaud. Silence again, real this time. No movement. No radio calls. Just the creak of cooling metal and the slow, rhythmic thump of your heartbeat in your ears. Fritz exhales a shaky laugh. 4 for 4. Weber lowers his binoculars. That's not a score. It's survival. Otto leans back against the seat, eyes closed for a moment. Emil adjusts the radio, static crackling like firewood. You rest your hand against the turret wall. It's warm now, alive, breathing like something that just won its own battle. Outside, the wind begins to rise, carrying flakes of ash and snow together. You look through the periscope one last time. The field is littered with wreckage, burning metal, broken shapes, black scars in the white landscape. No cheers. No celebration. Just smoke. Weber finally speaks again. Refuel, resupply, reload. The next fight will come sooner than we think. And as you begin to work, the motion's automatic, the fatigue settling in, you realize something. The first engagement isn't about glory. It's about proof. Proof that the Tiger can kill. Proof that you can live through it. You sit down, hands trembling, and stare at the empty shell casings scattered on the floor. They gleam faintly in the half-light, like relics of something sacred and terrible. Outside, snow falls again, covering the fresh graves of machines. Inside, the Tiger purrs quietly, satisfied. You wonder which of you, the men or the tank, has truly earned the right to rest. You lose count of the days. Out here, time isn't measured in hours or calendars anymore. It's measured in distance, in shells fired, in the number of times you wake up and the Tiger still starts. After that first real battle, the rhythm of life inside the Tiger settles into something both mechanical and strangely intimate. The war becomes routine, which is somehow more terrifying than the chaos of combat. Each morning begins the same. The air inside the tank is cold enough to see your breath. Fritz bangs on the side armor to wake you up, grumbling about the frost. Emil tunes the radio, searching through static for familiar voices. Otto polishes the optics until they shine, muttering to himself. Weber reads the day's orders in silence, lips moving as if reciting scripture. Then comes the ritual, fuel check. Oil check. Ammunition count check. Every bolt, every cable, every hinge has its place, and you all move through it like monks tending an ancient relic. Because that's what the tiger is now, a holy thing. A massive, temperamental god of metal that demands constant prayer through grease and effort. The air always smells of diesel and sweat. No matter how many times you scrub, the scent seeps into your skin. You've stopped noticing. You've stopped noticing a lot of things. The cold, the hunger, the constant ache in your shoulder from loading shell after shell. They become part of you, the way the thrum of the engine becomes part of your heartbeat. Fritz says the trick to surviving war is to make it boring. He might be right. On the good days, the tiger rolls smoothly across the frozen earth, treads biting and releasing in perfect rhythm. The landscape passes by in slow motion. Burned villages, blackened trees, shattered wagons half buried in snow. The world seems paused between one apocalypse and the next. On the bad days, mud cakes the tracks and you're crawling through swamps of melted snow, engines roaring, tempers flaring. You and Fritz dig out the treads until your gloves tear. Weber stands watch, eyes scanning for movement. Otto smokes silently, his gaze fixed on the horizon, always expecting something to appear there. When night falls, you park the tiger under camouflage nets, the engine still ticking as it cools. The quiet that follows is the strangest thing, so deep it presses on your eardrums. You hear only breathing, shifting fabric, the occasional sigh. Then the laughter starts. Soft, hesitant. Fritz tells stories that don't end. Otto makes dry comments that no one should laugh at, but you do anyway. Emil hums a tune that might have been a lullaby once. Weber sits apart, cleaning his pistol, pretending not to listen. Sometimes you play cards. Sometimes you just stare at the fire until it burns down to coals. The conversations wander, from home to food to women to nothing. You talk because silence is worse. You learn things about the men you fight beside. Fritz was once a farmer, hates snow, and swears he'll move to Italy after the war. Otto was studying mathematics before he got drafted. Now he uses his gift for angles and distance instead of proofs. Emil's father owned a bakery in Dresden, and he still dreams of bread so fresh the crust sings when you break it. Weber, no one really knows. He carries a small notebook, writes in it at night, then tears out the pages and burns them. You never ask what he writes. Some secrets are too heavy to share. Your own dreams grow smaller. A bath, real food, a bed that doesn't move, and quiet, endless quiet. But the war has no room for quiet. Each week brings another movement order, another routine advance. It's never routine. You roll through forests where trees are splintered like bones, through villages where nothing breathes except smoke. Sometimes you see civilians, shadows darting through the ruins. You look away. Weber always does. There are nights when artillery rumbles miles away, faint but constant. Fritz calls it distant thunder. Otto corrects him, that's not weather. Emil just turns up the radio static to drown it out. Despite everything, the tiger keeps going. She coughs, groans, rattles, but she moves. She's indestructible, or at least she feels that way. You've patched holes, replaced filters, welded cracks in her armor, and still she growls to life every morning, stubborn as the men inside her. One afternoon, you stop beside a field to rest. The snow glows gold in the dying light. Fritz climbs onto the hull and lights a cigarette. Emil sits on a jerry can, eyes closed, face tilted toward the sun. Otto sketches the shape of the gun barrel in his notebook. Weber just stands there, hands in his pockets, watching the horizon. No one says it, but for that brief moment it feels like peace. Then, as if to remind you it's not, a distant boom echoes across the plain. Artillery far but closing. Weber's head turns sharply. Back in. Now. Within seconds you're sealed inside again. The world outside becomes muffled. The rhythm resumes, engine, treads, breath, heartbeat. Inside everything feels the same. Outside the world keeps dying and being reborn in smoke. That night before you sleep, Otto says quietly, "Do you ever think about what will be after this?" You don't answer. You're too tired to imagine anything beyond tomorrow. Fritz mutters, "If the tiger stops, I'll just sleep under her and never wake up." Weber closes his notebook. Then makes sure she doesn't stop. The crew laughs. Not because it's funny, but because it's true. And so the rhythm continues. Drive, fight, repair, eat, sleep, wake, repeat. A song without melody. A heartbeat without rest. The tiger keeps rolling. And somewhere in the noise, You forget what silence ever sounded like. The next morning brings fog, thick, clinging, pale as milk. It seeps into everything, the barrel, the vents, your lungs. The world outside becomes a blur, a ghostly landscape where trees and ruins dissolve into one colorless smear. Fritz calls it tank weather. The kind where everyone sees you too late. The kind where ambushes work both ways. You can't see more than 30 meters ahead, but the orders come through clear enough. Advance east, secure the road near the old rail line. Routine. Always routine. You're starting to hate that word. The Tiger lurches into motion. The ground is frozen again, ruts of ice and compacted snow that make the whole hull shudder. Every bump feels personal, like the earth itself resents your presence. The fog muffles sound, but not the vibration. You feel the engine in your teeth, the rumble in your ribs. Inside, the condensation has turned to frost. Emil wipes it from the dials every few minutes. Otto peers into his scope, though it's nearly useless in the whiteout. Weber keeps glancing at his map, though it might as well be a painting of another planet. You think about home. About how winter used to mean holidays, hot bread, laughter. Here it just means everything hurts more slowly. Then a sound. Distant. Muffled. Engines. Not yours. Contact. Otto mutters. His voice is calm, but the word lands heavy. You strain to listen. It's faint, somewhere ahead. An engine note, high-pitched, nervous. Not German. Weber raises a hand. Fritz throttles down. The Tiger rolls to a halt. Everything goes still except the soft ticking of the idling motor. The fog shifts like a curtain. Shapes begin to form, dark, low, moving. Tanks. Not many. Maybe 3, maybe 4. T-34s, judging by the silhouette. They haven't seen you yet. Weber whispers, range 400. Hold until I say. The waiting is worse than fighting. Every second stretches thin as wire. You can hear your heartbeat echoing in your helmet. Then Weber lowers his hand. Fire. Otto's response is instant. The first shot splits the air, the recoil hammering through the turret like a thunderclap. The shell disappears into the fog, followed by a burst of orange. A hit. Reload, you shout. You move by instinct, shell in, breech closed, safety off. Second shot. Another blast. The fog blooms with smoke and flame. Shadows stagger, but the others scatter. You hear engines revving, treads grinding, figures shouting in Russian. One fires back. A flash, a deafening clang as a round glances off the Tiger's glassy plate. Fritz curses. Otto adjusts elevation. Weber's voice cuts through the chaos, crisp, measured. Left side. 2 o'clock. Range 300. You load again. Otto fires. The fog swallows the flash. Then silence. When it clears, 2 shapes burn. Another limps backward, trailing smoke. The last one doesn't retreat. It charges. Straight at you. It's madness, but you respect it. A-34 sprinting through the haze like a wounded animal. The roar of its engine fills the world. Otto tracks it. Closer. Weber waits. Too long, you think. Then, now. The shot lands mid-turret. The tank erupts, fragments scattering like shrapnel rain. Silence again. Only the hiss of cooling metal and the low whine of wind across steel. You exhale. Didn't realize you've been holding your breath. Fritz mutters, idiots. But there's admiration in his tone. Emil checks the radio. Command says more contacts, 2 kilometers east. They want us to pursue. Weber shakes his head. Negative. Visibility's gone. We hold position. He doesn't raise his voice, but there's something final in it. Even the fog seems to listen. Hours pass. The smoke from the destroyed tanks mixes with the mist until you can't tell which is which. The smell, burnt oil, melted snow, something darker, seeps into the cabin. Otto sits back from his scope, wiping condensation from his face. Feels like we're fighting inside a dream. You nod. Or a nightmare. He almost smiles. Same thing these days. When dusk finally arrives, it's impossible to tell. The sky and the ground blur together. Fritz shuts down the engine to save fuel. The silence is unnerving. You take turns on watch. Emil hums softly, an old tune. Fritz snores between shifts. Weber writes something in his notebook again, the paper faintly glowing in the lamplight. Otto cleans the optics, even though there's nothing left to see. You step outside once, just to breathe air that isn't made of oil and iron. The fog has thinned, revealing a white plain littered with dark hulks. Shapes that were men. Shapes that were machines. The snow is still falling, slow, silent, almost gentle. For a moment it's beautiful. Then you notice the crows. You go back inside. Close the hatch. The tiger feels warm again. Sit. You curl up in your sling and stare at the turret ceiling, tracing the patterns of soot. Tomorrow will be another day of smoke and snow. Another day of fog, of noise, of waiting. You fall asleep thinking of the T-34 that charged. Not as an enemy but as a mirror. Both of you fighting in the mist, hoping the other blinks first. Morning creeps in quietly, a dull silver light filtering through the narrow cracks of the hatch. You wake to the sound of snow dripping from the turret roof, tiny rhythmic taps that sound almost like rain. For a moment you forget where you are. Then the cold metal against your back reminds you. The tiger's interior smells of diesel and old breath. Fritz is already awake, mumbling curses as he rubs his hands together over the small stove that barely warms anything. Otto sits cross-legged, sharpening his bayonet out of habit, not need. Emil hums softly as he cleans the radio coils, trying to coax life out of the static. Then Weber announces, almost casually, "Mails come." The words land like warmth. Real warmth. A field runner had arrived at dawn, half frozen, carrying a battered pouch marked with soot and fingerprints. Fritz dives for it first. Don't tell me it's just reports again. But it isn't. There are letters. Real ones. Paper, ink, handwriting. Little fragments of another world. Weber sorts them like a priest dealing out communion. One for Emil. One for Fritz. None for Otto. One for you. You stare at the envelope for a long time before opening it. The corners are creased, the ink slightly smudged. The handwriting, familiar, looping, your brother's. Dear Carl, it begins. You read slowly. He writes about home, about how the old bakery finally reopened after the last bombing raid. He mentions the smell of bread, the way the yeast fills the morning air. He says the dog still waits by the door every evening as if expecting you to walk through it. You pause there. It's almost cruel, that image, something so gentle surviving when so many things haven't. He writes that mother still keeps your old photograph on the mantle, that she stopped asking when you'll return. He says it kindly, but you feel the weight of it between the lines. He ends with a single sentence. Stay alive, that's all I ask. You fold the letter carefully, slip it back into its envelope, and set it beside the periscope where the light hits it just right. You don't read it again, but you keep looking at it. Across the turret, Fritz laughs at something in his own letter, loud, unashamed. My cousin's in the Luftwaffe. Says he's still got both wings attached. He grins, though the humor feels thin. Otto doesn't get a letter, but he doesn't look surprised. He just keeps sharpening the blade, long strokes, slow and deliberate. Emil finishes reading his and sits still for a long time. Finally, he says, My sister had a baby. He smiles faintly. A boy. Name? Fritz asks. Emil shakes his head. She didn't say. Maybe she hasn't chosen yet. Maybe she's waiting. The words linger. Everyone grows quiet again. Outside, the snow is falling harder now, thick flakes that cover footprints almost as soon as they're made. The world softens as if trying to hide the scars. Weber finally speaks. We move again this afternoon. New orders, advance to Sector 12. Defensive positioning. Defensive, Fritz mutters. That's a nice way of saying dig your own grave before someone else does. No one disagrees. The hours pass slowly. You perform maintenance just to keep your hands busy, tightening bolts, checking seals, wiping down the breach. The radio crackles with distant chatter. Half-coded orders, broken transmissions, the faint hum of some unseen frequency. At one point, Emil manages to tune in a station. Not military. Civilian. Music. A woman's voice sings faintly through the static, slow, wistful, almost unreal. You can't make out the words, but the melody sounds like something from a summer long gone. Everyone stops working. Even Weber listens. For a few minutes you're not soldiers. Just men. Just listeners. Then the signal fades. The static returns. And with it, the war. Fritz breaks the silence first. You know, maybe the music's coming from home. Maybe someone's still playing it there. Otto replies without looking up. Or maybe it's a recording. Someone long dead playing for ghosts like us. No one argues. 'Cause he might be right. After lunch, tinned beans and black coffee, you start the engine again. The tiger growls steady and deep. The vibration hums through your boots, through your chest. The sound of movement, of purpose. The world outside is all white now. The horizon has disappeared, replaced by a curtain of snow. The only thing you can see clearly is the tank's own breath, steam rising from the exhaust in heavy bursts. You move slow. Weber guides from the cupola, map clutched in gloved hands. Fritz keeps the engine steady, muttering to it like it's a living thing. Otto scans the white blur through fogged glass. Emil listens to the radio as if it might speak again. Hours pass. Nothing moves but the snow. The landscape feels abandoned, forgotten. A painting with all its color washed away. Then, in the distance, a sound. Bells. Faint, rhythmic, metallic. Fritz frowns. Church bells? Otto shakes his head. Wind through metal. Could be anything. But you keep listening. Because for a moment it sounds real. When night falls, you park the Tiger beside a barn half buried in snow. You eat quietly. No fire tonight, too risky. The world is dark except for the dim glow of the control lamps. Before sleeping, you unfold your brother's letter one last time. You don't read it. You just trace the shape of the handwriting with your finger. Stay alive. It's such a simple order. And yet, out here it feels like the hardest one to obey. You close your eyes. The Tiger hums faintly beneath you, metal cooling, snow settling. Somewhere outside, the wind sighs like an old friend. You dream of bread, and bells, and a home that still remembers your name. You wake before dawn to the sound of silence, a kind that doesn't belong here. No engines, no wind, no static hum from Emil's radio. Just the stillness that comes before something breaks. Weber is already awake, crouched beside the hatch with his binoculars, though there's nothing to see but a field of frozen mist. Fritz stirs beside the engine deck, rubbing his hands together. Otto is half asleep against the gun breech, his notebook resting on his knee. Emil sits cross-legged, turning the radio dials with patient, deliberate fingers. Anything? Weber asks. Just ghosts, Emil says. His tone is light, but his eyes are serious. Someone's broadcasting on an empty frequency again. I keep hearing an engine. Or maybe it's just feedback. Engines? Fritz snorts. If it's fuel trucks, tell them they're late. But you listen closely. Through the faint hiss of static, there's something, a low, mechanical murmur, too steady to be random noise. It rises, fades, then rises again. Like breath. Like waiting. Otto finally says what everyone's thinking. They're moving. Somewhere out there. The fog thins as the sun begins to climb, a weak, watery light spilling over the frozen landscape. The world reveals itself slowly, trees bent under frost, an old road half swallowed by snowdrifts, the skeleton of a farmhouse at the edge of a hill. And then, in the distance, you see it. Movement. Dark silhouettes sliding across the white horizon. Oh, fast. Familiar. Tanks? Weber mutters. He doesn't shout it, he doesn't need to. The word carries its own gravity. Fritz is already in the driver's seat, coaxing the engine to life. The Tiger shudders awake, a deep metallic growl filling the silence. The vibrations rattle through your bones, steady and reassuring, the sound of survival. Otto adjusts his optics, peering through the haze. 5, maybe 6. No insignia. Could be ours. Or theirs, Weber says flatly. Load. You don't argue. You move on instinct, the practiced rhythm of fear turned mechanical. Open the shell rack. Grip the cold metal. Slide it into the breech. The motion feels like breathing now. The radio crackles suddenly. A voice, faint, distorted, frantic. German but broken by static. Engaged, Sector 9, repeat, air support lost, hold. Then nothing. Emil hits the receiver. They're cutting through our line, he says quietly. Sector 9's west of here. Which means they're already past us, Weber replies. He stares at the distant horizon, the dark shapes growing clearer with every second. They're not German. You can tell by the way they move, smoother, lower, more aggressive. T-34s again. 5 of them fanning out like wolves. Fritz, Weber says calmly. We move. Tree line 200 meters north. Fritz nods, throwing the Tiger into gear. The treads bite into the frozen earth, snow exploding in white plumes as the 60-ton beast lurches forward. The world turns to vibration. Metal grinding, gears howling, the smell of diesel thick in your throat. You reach the trees just as the first shell lands. The explosion lifts snow and soil into the air like an angry wave. The tiger rocks hard, but she holds. "They've spotted us," Otto says. Weber nods. "Good. Now let's remind them who we are." Otto lines up his scope. You hand him a shell, armor-piercing, high velocity. He breathes once, slow and steady, then fires. The recoil slams through the turret. The sound tears the morning apart. Hit. Otto shouts. First one smoking. You reload. Another shell. Another breath. Fritz adjusts position, reversing into cover between two frost-covered birches. The tiger's treads crunch like bones. The second round fires. A flash. A bloom of fire in the distance. 2 down, Weber says, voice calm, clinical. 3 remaining. Keep them guessing. The enemy responds fast. Return fire tears through the air, distant thunder that grows closer with each volley. 1 shell lands near enough to spray the tiger with shrapnel. The impact sounds like rain on a cathedral roof. Armor's good, Fritz mutters. She's fine. But you can feel the tremor in the steel, not from damage but from exhaustion. Even a tank can get tired. The exchange continues, brutal and methodical. Otto fires. You reload. Emil calls out positions from faint blips on the shortwave. Weber directs each shot like a conductor leading an orchestra of thunder. After 15 minutes, silence returns. The horizon burns faintly, black smoke rising from 3 shapes now still. You exhale, letting the tension drain from your shoulders. Clear? Fritz asks. For now, Weber replies. He closes his binoculars slowly. They'll send more. Then we'll still be here, Otto says simply. The words hang in the cold air. A quiet promise. Or a warning. Later, when the smoke thins, you climb out to stretch your legs. The landscape looks different again. Churned snow, cratered earth, trails of steam rising from distant wrecks. You walk a few paces away, just far enough to hear the wind. It's sharp, clean, indifferent. Behind you, Fritz is humming something out of tune. Emil's radio hisses softly, a whisper of static that almost sounds like waves. Otto sits on the turret roof, sketching the line of the horizon with his pencil, as if trying to capture a moment before it fades. Weber stands beside the tiger, hands clasped behind his back, watching the smoke drift. His face is unreadable. After a while, he says quietly, "You ever notice how engines sound different when they die? You think about it. The roar, the crack, the long sigh of cooling metal. The silence after." "Yes," you say. "They sound like us." He nods. The wind picks up. Somewhere beyond the trees, another rumble begins, faint, rhythmic, familiar. Engines. Again. The tiger's crew moves without a word. Everyone knows what comes next. By the time you hear the second wave coming, the sun is already sinking, an orange smudge bleeding through clouds thick with smoke and frost. The day has turned to ash. The light no longer warms, it only reveals. The tiger sits crouched between a line of dead birches, her exhaust steaming like breath from a great sleeping animal. You've spent the last hour reloading, cleaning the breach, wiping soot from your gloves. Everyone moves slower now. Not from hesitation, but from the rhythm of repetition. You know this dance. You've done it too many times. The horizon flickers. Tiny black shapes ripple against the dying light. Movement, deliberate, steady. Fritz spots them first. "Company," he mutters, leaning out from his driver's hatch. You look through the scope. It's not a few tanks this time. It's a column. 15, maybe 20. Infantry alongside. A long, crawling line of armor stretching into the haze. Otto exhales through his teeth. That's not a patrol. Weber doesn't answer right away. He just studies them through his binoculars, the reflection of flame in his lenses. "They're advancing fast," he says finally. "Too fast." The air smells of burned fuel and iron. The snow at your feet is streaked with soot. Emil tunes the radio, trying to raise command. Nothing. Just the sound of static waves crashing endlessly. You can feel it now, the faint tremor under the ground growing stronger as the column approaches. The heartbeat of engines rolling closer, heavier. It's not sound anymore, it's vibration. The world hums with it. Weber climbs halfway out of the cupola. Positions. We hold until dark. That's the order. Fritz spits into the snow. Then let's make it expensive for them. You check the ammo racks. 12 shells left. Otto checks the elevation gear. Emil loads the machine gun belts. The crew moves like clockwork, 5 bodies acting as one mind. You've done this so long that words are almost unnecessary. The first enemy shells land wide, distant geysers of snow and dirt bursting harmlessly along the ridge. The sound rolls, and seconds later, a deep, resonant boom that shakes the sky. Then the second volley lands closer. Too close. You duck instinctively as clods of frozen soil slam against the hull. The Tiger holds, her armor shrugging off the debris like an irritated giant brushing off snowflakes. Otto calls out, "Targets in range." Weber's voice cuts sharp, "Engage." You load the first round. The breech slams shut with a metallic snap. Otto breathes once, exhales, and fires. The recoil hammers through the turret. The muzzle flash lights up the fog like lightning. One tank blooms into fire. You can see the silhouettes of figures scrambling from it, running before vanishing into the smoke. Reload. You move faster now. Shell and lever down lock. Otto fires again. Another hit. They return fire. A shell screams overhead, close enough that the shockwave makes your ears ring. Fritz swears, grinding the Tiger backward into deeper cover. Emil fires bursts from the hull MG, the tracers carving orange arcs through the dusk. The air fills with noise, gunfire, engines, the endless drum of explosions. The world becomes heat and thunder. Inside the Tiger, everything shakes. Dust rains from the seams. The smell of powder and sweat mixes into something metallic and human. One round hits close, too close. The Tiger jolts sideways, throwing you hard against the turret wall. You taste blood. Otto curses, clutching the scope. The glass is cracked but still functional. She's fine. Fritz yells. Just mad. Weber steadies himself, scanning again. Right flank, 2 more closing fast. You pivot the turret, the gears grinding under strain. The first T-34 appears through the haze, battered, scarred, its hull streaked with black. It's charging. Otto fires. The shell catches it mid-stride, punching through like a hammer through glass. The tank folds in on itself, disappearing behind a plume of fire. The second follows, too close for comfort. Fritz reverses, mud spraying behind. Otto tries to adjust, but the barrel can't track fast enough. Loader. Weber shouts. You grab a shell, slam it in, twist the breech shut. Otto fires blind, trusting instinct over aim. The explosion is close enough to make the Tiger tremble. When the smoke clears, there's nothing left but flame. You're breathing hard now, sweat freezing against your collar. The air inside feels thinner, hotter, like the tank is exhaling with you. Minutes stretch into hours. The sky darkens. The field burns in patches, small fires dancing like dying stars. The Soviets pull back, maybe regrouping, maybe counting their losses. No one cheers. You just sit there, panting in the half-dark, surrounded by smoke and silence. Fritz leans against the steering wheel, exhausted. Emil wipes grime from his face with a trembling hand. Otto stares through the cracked scope, searching for movement. Weber lowers his binoculars slowly. Status, he asks. Ammo, 6 shells left, you reply. He nods. Then we live to fight 6 more times. The joke lands like a prayer. Outside, the horizon glows faintly, orange and red, a line of fire stretching eastward. The flames flicker through the fog like a sunrise in reverse. Emil whispers, "It looks like the world's burning." Weber stares at it for a long time before answering. Maybe it is. The Tiger's engine ticks as it cools. You can hear your pulse in your ears. The air smells of ash and oil and something faintly sweet, like cordite mixed with snow. Fritz finally speaks. "If they come again tomorrow?" "They will," Otto says. "Then we'll make them earn every meter," Weber replies. You lean back against the wall, eyes heavy, heartbeat slowing. Outside, the fire keeps spreading, climbing the sky like a warning. It's beautiful and terrible. Fire on the horizon. A new dawn made of smoke. Night falls heavy and slow, like a curtain drawn over the world. The last glow from the burning horizon fades into darkness, and the cold rushes in to take its place. Inside the Tiger, the air is dense with smoke, sweat, and the faint metallic tang of gunpowder that never quite leaves. You sit in silence. No one speaks. The only sound is the slow ticking of the engine as it cools, each click echoing like a heartbeat in the dark. Fritz finally breaks the quiet. "I can't feel my toes," he mutters, voice low. Emil doesn't look up from the radio. That's how you know you still have them. Otto chuckles softly, just once, then goes back to wiping soot from the scope. He cleans it after every battle, even if there's nothing left to see. It's ritual now, maybe the only piece of order left in the chaos. Weber sits in the cupola, watching the blackness outside through his binoculars, though there's nothing out there but cold and memory. His silhouette looks carved from the dark itself, steady, unmoving, as if he's daring the night to blink first. You're tired more than you've ever been. Not just in your body, but in your bones. You feel the fatigue in your jaw, your heartbeat, even your thoughts. The war has eaten time itself. Days melt together until all that's left is the rhythm of survival. The radio hisses suddenly. Emil adjusts the dial. A voice filters through the static. Faint, distant, impossible to locate. If any unit's still operational, fall back, coordinates. The rest dissolves into noise. Repeat transmission, Weber says, leaning closer. Nothing. Could be for us, Emil says. Could be for ghosts. Weber doesn't respond. He just exhales, the sound misting in the cold air. Outside, the snow begins again. You hear it before you see it, the soft, almost secret sound of flakes landing on steel. Within minutes, the tiger is buried under a thin white blanket. It muffles the world, dulls the echoes. The tank becomes a cocoon of quiet breath and fading warmth. Fritz stokes the tiny stove in the corner. The flame is weak, flickering orange on his face. Tomorrow, he mutters, we'll wake up to another advance. Another strategic repositioning. Another miracle. Otto smirks without humor. I'm out of miracles. I'll settle for sleep. You lie back against the turret wall. The metal is cold but familiar. It's strange how comfort changes, how you can find it even here in a place that smells like fuel and fear. You close your eyes just for a moment, and then you hear it, faint, rhythmic, distant. Engines. Again. You open your eyes. Weber is already listening. The sound grows, not loud but steady. A pulse under the snow. Could be ours, Fritz whispers. Could be theirs, Otto replies. Weber lowers the binoculars. Either way, we stay dark. No lights. No engine. The crew goes still. The tiger is silent, a frozen beast holding its breath. Minutes stretch. The sound grows louder, closer. You can almost feel it vibrating through the frozen ground. Then it fades, slipping away into the dark, swallowed by distance or direction. You wait longer than you need to, just in case. Finally, Weber nods. They've passed. For now. Everyone exhales. The tension leaves slowly, like air escaping a cracked valve. Emil returns to the radio. Fritz curls up in his seat, pulling his jacket tighter. Otto leans against the gun, eyes closed, still holding the cleaning rag. You can't sleep. Your mind keeps wandering, to the faces you remember, the ones you've forgotten, the smell of bread, the sound of laughter from before. The kind of noise you'd give anything to hear again. You take out your brother's letter, unfold it in the dim light. The words are starting to fade, the paper soft from handling. Stay alive. You fold it carefully and tuck it back into your jacket. A talisman. A promise. Sometime past midnight, Fritz starts humming, a low, aimless tune that might once have been a song. Emil joins in softly off-key. Even Otto taps the gun barrel in rhythm. It's absurd. It's beautiful. It's life insisting on itself. Outside, the snow thickens, piling over the tiger until you can barely see the outline of her turret. She looks peaceful, like a monument waiting to be remembered. Weber finally climbs down from the hatch. Get what rest you can, he says quietly. We move at dawn. You nod, though you're not sure if dawn means anything anymore. As you drift towards sleep, you imagine the world above, white, silent, untouched, hiding the heat and noise beneath. The tiger sleeps. The crew breathes. The war waits. And for one fragile night, the snow feels like mercy. Dawn arrives slowly, not with color, but with a kind of pale, bruised light that feels more like surrender than sunrise. You open your eyes to find the tiger encased in a thin shell of ice. Frost has crept over the periscope lenses, along the gun barrel, even across the seams of the turret. It looks like the tank has aged 100 years overnight. Fritz curses softly as he knocks icicles off the controls. She's frozen solid, he mutters, rubbing his gloved hands together. If I turn the engine, we might snap a line. Weber crouches near the hatch, peering out. Then we thaw her carefully, he says. We don't rush. That's Weber's gift, patience in a world that demands panic. You don't know how he does it. The rest of you measure time in heartbeats, he measures it in plants. Emil works the radio. Nothing but static again, though every few seconds there's a faint hum, something like a voice buried under a storm. Otto sits with the shell rack open, counting what's left. 6 rounds, that's all. Each one gleaming faintly in the half-light, little cylinders of faith. You go through the motions. It's what soldiers do when the world stops making sense. Fritz pours a thin stream of fuel over a cloth, sets it alight beneath the engine block to warm it. The flames sputter blue, then settle. The metal pops and sighs as it thaws. The air smells like gasoline and snow. Cold and heat locked in a silent argument. Weber studies the map, tracing lines with a pencil stub. The paper's soft, the edges singed from past battles. We're here, he says, tapping a finger. Command wants us there. 20 kilometers south. Fritz squints. That's a lot of kilometers for a tank running on fumes. We'll manage, Weber replies, though his tone makes it clear he's saying it for you, not himself. The Tiger groans as the engine finally catches. A low, hesitant growl that rises into a steady purr. The whole hull vibrates, shaking off frost like a dog after rain. You can almost feel her waking up beneath you, resentful but alive. You move out slowly, treads crunching through layers of ice. The landscape glitters, endless white plains broken by shards of black tree trunks and the occasional ruin. The sky is colorless, the kind of gray that swallows everything. No birds, no wind, just the sound of the Tiger carving her path through the frozen quiet. Hours pass. The cold gnaws through your gloves. Emil finally picks up something on the radio. Faint coordinates, a voice you almost recognize. Supply convoy ahead, he says. Could be fuel. Weber nods. We'll intercept. If they're friendly, we refuel. If not, Otto finishes the sentence for him. We take it anyway. You find the convoy by midday, or what passes for midday in this pale world. 3 trucks, half buried in snow, their engines dead. No movement. No guards. Fritz slows the Tiger, eyes narrowing. Looks abandoned. Or bait, Weber replies. He signals Otto to cover the ridge. You and Emil climb out, boots crunching into the crusted snow. The air bites your skin instantly, sharp as glass. You approach the nearest truck. The cab door hangs open, the windshield spiderwebbed with cracks. Inside, 2 figures frozen in their seats. Faces gray, hands locked around the steering wheel. Dead, you say quietly. Emil checks the back. Barrels. Fuel maybe. Still sealed. You glance at Weber, who's watching through the binoculars. He gives a slow nod. Take it. Quickly. Fritz and Otto help you roll the barrels toward the Tiger, the metal scraping against ice. Your breath fogs the air in thick clouds. Every sound feels too loud in the stillness. The clang of the hose, the hiss of fuel, the squeak of boots. You fill the tanks. Carefully. Reverently. Each liter feels like a reprieve. Then Emil's voice cuts through the quiet. Movement. You spin. Across the ridge, figures. Small at first, then growing. Shapes moving fast through the haze. Infantry. Not yours. Positions. Weber barks. You dive back into the Tiger. Fritz slams the hatch shut. The engine roars hot and alive. Otto swings the turret, scanning. Emil tunes the radio. Static, then distant shouting. Russian. They're flanking from the east. Otto calls. Weber leans into the intercom. Hold fire until you're sure. The first bullets ping off the hull, tiny sparks against armor. Then a shell lands nearby, spraying snow and smoke. Otto fires. The recoil shakes your teeth. One explosion. The ridge disappears behind flame. Fritz throttles forward, turning the Tiger into the wind. The treads bite deep, throwing snow into plumes behind you. You don't think. You move. You load. You reload. When the echoes fade, the ridge is empty again. Smoke rising, snow settling. Weber lowers his binoculars. Fuel secured. Casualties. None, Otto says. Then we keep moving. The Tiger rolls on, leaving behind the wrecked trucks and frozen men who once guarded them. The sky darkens again and the wind begins to howl, long, low, like the sound of something ancient waking up. You look back once. The tracks in the snow stretch for miles, 2 endless scars fading into the white horizon. Inside, the Tiger hums. Fritz whistles tunelessly. Otto wipes soot from the optics. Emil stares at the radio, waiting for another ghost voice to answer. Weber writes something in his notebook. You close your eyes just for a moment and let the rhythm of the treads carry you. The frozen road stretches on, silent and endless. And the tiger, old, weary, stubborn, keeps going. Because that's what she was built to do. By the time you reach the river, the light is fading again. The days have become shorter, or maybe you've just stopped noticing where one ends and the next begins. The world is white, gray, and cold, a watercolor painting left too long in the snow. The river stretches out before you, wide and silent, frozen solid from bank to bank. A single, fragile bridge of ice. The map says this is the crossing point. Command insists it's safe. You all stare at it like it's a bad joke. Fritz squints at the frozen expanse. Safe for what? A bicycle? Weber doesn't answer immediately. He studies the far side through his binoculars. Nothing moves. Just frost, fog, and the faint outline of trees. Engineers tested it, he says at last. Tested it with what? Otto murmurs. A rabbit. The silence that follows says everything. The tiger rumbles forward to the riverbank. The ice gleams beneath her tracks, translucent in the weak afternoon light. Beneath the surface, you can see faint streaks of dark water shifting slowly, like veins under pale skin. The sound of the engine vibrates through the frozen air, and you can almost feel the river listening. Weber finally says it, one at a time. No stopping. Keep her moving. Fritz exhales through his teeth. And if it cracks? Then don't let it. You climb back inside. The hatch clangs shut. The tiger's heartbeat, her engine, throbs under your boots. You take your positions automatically, each motion practiced, reverent. The cold inside the tank feels sharper now, edged with tension. Fritz eases her forward. The treads bite into the snow, crunching as they reach the river's edge. The first step onto the ice is a sound, not a crack, not yet, just a long, slow groan. The tiger moves with agonizing slowness, every ton of her weight pressing against the frozen surface. You hold your breath. Everyone does. For a moment, it feels like she might make it. Then a sound, distant, faint, the hiss of artillery. Weber snaps up. Contact. Right bank. Through the periscope, you catch it, a puff of smoke on the far shore. A dug-in position. Gun crew. Otto swings the turret. Visual confirmed. Engage. Weber barks. The tiger's 88mm roars. The blast echoes across the river like thunder. The ice shivers beneath you, a ripple you can feel in your teeth. Hit, Otto says steady. But it's not over. A return shot whistles overhead, then another. One slams into the far ice, sending a spiderweb of cracks racing toward you. Fritz swears, slamming the throttle. The tiger surges forward, treads slipping, gripping again. The ice groans, long, deep, like a giant waking. You load another shell. Otto fires. The gun crew disappears in a flash of flame and smoke. Keep moving. Weber shouts. The tank inches forward, steel shrieking against ice. You can feel the vibration in every bolt, every rivet. The cracks are spreading now, chasing your treads like lightning frozen in glass. Halfway across, you hear it, the low, dreadful sound of splitting. The left track dips. The tiger tilts. Hold her steady. Weber yells. Fritz grits his teeth, forcing the throttle forward. The engine screams. The treads claw for traction. The tiger lurches, up, forward onto thicker ice. For a breathless second, she hesitates. Then the right side catches. You're moving again. Meter by meter, she climbs toward the far bank. The air fills with the stench of diesel and terror. You can hear the ice collapsing behind you, sharp, cracking bursts swallowed by the roar of the engine. Then mercifully dirt. The tiger crawls up the far side, dragging herself free of the river's grip. The treads bite into the snow-covered ground, churning mud and ice into steam. You exhale. Everyone does. But then Fritz's voice cuts through the relief. Second tank. You look back through the hatch. The next tiger has begun its crossing. The ice is already fractured, weakened by your passage. Tell them to stop. Emil shouts into the radio. Weber grabs the receiver. Abort crossing. Wait. But the radio hisses, no reply. You watch helplessly as the second tank pushes forward. The ice holds for the first few meters. Then a hollow crack. Another. The tank jerks, dips. One side collapses completely. For a moment, it hangs there, a steel monster caught between earth and water. Then the ice gives way entirely. The tank slides forward, groaning like a wounded animal, and disappears beneath the river in a swirl of black and white. You hear the screams over the radio. Then static. The surface closes again, sealing the wreck below like a grave. No one speaks. Weber just lowers his binoculars. The snow falls harder now, hiding everything: the river, the cracks, the loss. Fritz lights a cigarette with shaking hands. Otto wipes his scope slowly, methodically, like it's a prayer. Emil sits still, eyes closed, lips moving silently. You stare at the frozen water, steam curling from the Tiger's hull, and realize how thin everything is. The line between safety and silence, between steel and sky, between life and the cold beneath. Weber's voice is quiet when he finally speaks. "We move." You nod. The Tiger rumbles onward, leaving behind the river and the ghosts it swallowed. The ice groans once more behind you, then stills. And somewhere under that frozen skin, another Tiger sleeps forever, facing east. The next morning, the sky burns pale and empty. The snow no longer falls. It drifts, lazy and uncertain, like it's forgotten how. The world around you feels suspended, as if everything is holding its breath. The Tiger hums softly beneath you, her engine running low, her armor streaked with frost and soot. You stop trying to clean the battle scars. There are too many now, dents, scrapes, bullet marks that look almost artistic in the weak sunlight. The Tiger wears her wounds like medals. Weber stands by the cupola, staring back toward the river. His binoculars hang forgotten around his neck. You know what he's thinking, what everyone is thinking. The second Tiger. The crew that didn't make it. Fritz breaks the silence first. They went fast. His voice is small, almost respectful. Didn't even get to the other side. Otto nods without looking up from his scope. Ice was thinner there. Bad luck. Weber's tone is soft but sharp. It's not luck. It's war. You don't say anything, because you know he's right. You start the day's maintenance in silence. Fritz clears the treads, breaking off chunks of frozen mud with the butt of a wrench. Emil tightens the radio wires again, swearing quietly under his breath. Otto wipes the optics. Always wiping, always keeping the glass clear, as if clarity could protect you. You check the shells. 5 left. You stack them neatly, each one gleaming faintly in the dim light. They look almost peaceful, resting there, like something holy. The cold today is different. It isn't the sharp bite of winter air. It's the kind that seeps in slowly through metal and fabric, settling into your bones. You keep moving just to stay human. Weber calls for a briefing. "Our orders haven't changed," he says, tapping the map. "We hold this sector until further notice. No fallback listed. No reinforcements inbound." "Meaning we're on our own," Fritz says flatly. Weber doesn't correct him. By midday, the smoke from last night's crossing still lingers, trapped low to the ground. You can see the faint silhouette of the sun through it, dull, red, exhausted. The kind of light that makes everything look older. A column of infantry passes on the ridge to your right. Frostbitten faces, tattered uniforms, rifles slung low. They move without speaking, ghosts wearing boots. One of them pauses to look at your tank. His eyes are hollow. Then he keeps walking. Fritz watches them go. "You think they know where they're going?" "No one does anymore," Emil answers quietly. The afternoon drags. The radio picks up fragments of panic. Orders shouted by voices you don't recognize, coordinates that don't exist on your map. Something about retreat lines breaking, bridges gone, convoys lost. Weber listens, then shuts it off. Ignore it. You understand. Sometimes the truth is worse than the silence. Later, Fritz finds an old farmhouse nearby, half collapsed, roof gone, windows shattered. Inside, the walls are blackened, but there's still a hearth, and someone once left a kettle behind. He brings it back proudly, holding it up like treasure. "Tea," he says, or something like it. You all laugh, not because it's funny, but because it feels good to remember how. The tea tastes like smoke and rust. No one complains. As night begins to fall, you gather outside the Tiger. The sky has gone purple-gray, a bruised color that feels both alive and dying. Weber writes in his notebook again, his pencil scratching softly. Otto sharpens his knife with methodical precision. Emil hums under his breath, the same tune he's been humming for weeks, a melody that never quite resolves. You take a moment to walk a little away from the tank. The air is cold, pure, almost painful. You stare at the snow under your boots, layers of white hiding the dark soil beneath. You know what's buried there. Something catches your eye, a faint glint beside a tree. You walk over and find a piece of twisted metal sticking out of the snow. When you brush it clean, you see it's a fragment of armor, curved, blackened, familiar. The marking is still visible, a faded tiger's claw painted on the side. You recognize it. The other tiger. You stand there for a long time, the wind tugging at your coat. The metal is cold, almost alive. When you return to camp, you carry it with you. You don't tell anyone what it is. You just set it beside the tiger's tread like an offering. Weber notices. He doesn't ask. He just nods once, then looks up at the darkening sky. Snow's coming again. Good, Fritz mutters. Covers everything. That night, you all eat in silence. The air inside the tank feels thicker than usual, as if the metal itself is remembering. Before turning in, Otto says quietly, "They say ashes rise with the snow. That if you breathe deep enough, you can smell the ones who came before." Fritz laughs, but it's hollow. "Then I'll hold my breath." Weber closes the hatch. The tiger is sealed tight against the storm. Outside, the wind begins to howl, long, low, and mournful. It sounds almost human. Inside, you lie awake listening to it. You imagine the river freezing over again, hiding what it took. You imagine the snow falling over everything, tanks, soldiers, fields, until all the scars are gone. And for a moment, you think Otto might be right. Maybe the ashes really do rise with the snow. Because when you close your eyes, the air feels full of ghosts. The forest arrives like a whisper. After weeks of frozen plains and open roads, the sudden wall of trees feels almost alive, dark trunks rising from white earth, branches interlocking above you like the ribs of a cathedral. The tiger moves slowly now, careful and deliberate, her engine muffled beneath the canopy. You'd forgotten what shadows looked like. Here, the sunlight struggles to reach the ground, turning everything into shades of gray. Frost clings to the branches in thick veins, and each gust of wind shakes down a slow rain of snow that sparkles for a heartbeat before vanishing. Fritz mutters from his seat, "Feels like we're sneaking into a graveyard." Otto replies, eyes fixed on his scope, "Graveyards are quieter." No one laughs. Weber studies the map on his knee, the paper trembling slightly with every vibration of the engine. "Command says there's an old supply depot somewhere ahead," he says. "Abandoned. We'll rest there. Refit if there's anything left." You've stopped believing in anything left, but you nod anyway. The tiger's treads crush the snow into silence. Occasionally, you catch glimpses of movement in the distance, deer maybe, or something smaller. It's strange to see living things again, fragile silhouettes against the trees. For a moment, it feels like the war has forgotten this place. Then you find the first wreck. It's not dramatic, just a rusted truck half swallowed by snow, its wheels jutting up like ribs. A few meters farther, a burned-out half-track slumped against a pine. The forest has begun to reclaim them, vines curling over twisted metal, frost-sealing wounds that will never heal. Fritz whistles low. Guess someone found the depot first. Weber doesn't answer. He just gestures forward. Keep moving. After another kilometer, you see it. The depot, or what's left of it. A clearing filled with ruins. Collapsed sheds, blackened barrels, shattered crates scattered like bones. The tiger rolls to a stop in the middle of it, her exhaust hissing into the cold. Weber climbs out first. His boots crunch against the snow as he surveys the wreckage. "Spread out," he orders. "Check for supplies. Fuel, rations, tools. Anything." You all move without question. Otto covers the Trilene, rifle ready. Fritz kicks open the nearest shed, cursing when the roof caves in with a groan. Emil searches through crates, tapping each one before prying it open with his knife. Most are empty. The rest are worse, filled with frozen mud or shattered glass. The depot was hit hard maybe weeks ago, maybe yesterday. You find a single drum of diesel still sealed. When you roll it toward the tiger, it sloshes faintly inside. Fritz grins. Enough to keep her breathing another day. You smile back. Small victories. Weber lights a small fire from broken planks. The smoke rises straight up, barely disturbed by the wind. It smells of old pine and machine oil. For a while, you all sit there, warming your hands, the tiger looming behind like a silent guardian. It almost feels peaceful. Until Otto speaks. Someone's watching. Everyone freezes. He's still staring through the scope, focused on the trees beyond the clearing. You follow his gaze. Nothing moves. Just the forest, silent, endless. Fritz laughs nervously. Probably the wind. Otto shakes his head. No wind. You strain your ears. The only sound is the soft pop of the fire. Then, there. Faint. A crunch. Snow shifting under weight. Weber's voice drops low. Positions. You move without thinking, climbing back into the Tiger. Fritz kills the fire with his boot and dives for the driver's seat. Emil slams the hatch shut and the tank is sealed again, a cocoon of iron and breath. The forest waits. Otto peers through the scope. Movement. Left flank. Small shapes. Infantry. How many? Weber asks. Hard to tell. Too quiet. The radio crackles once, then goes dead. Emil smacks it. Nothing. The silence outside grows heavier. Fritz whispers, if they're Russians, they'll flush us out. Fire first. Weber shakes his head. Not yet. Let them show themselves. Minutes pass like hours. The Tiger idles, engine purring softly. You can hear your own heartbeat echo inside the metal. Then a voice. Distant. Shouting. Russian. Otto doesn't wait for the order. He fires. The 88mm thunders and the forest explodes with sound. Snow falls from the branches in sheets. Somewhere out there, men are shouting, running, returning fire. Bullets rattle against the hull. Sparks bloom across the armor like fireflies. Fritz reverses into position, treads grinding through roots and dirt. 2 o'clock. Weber yells. Loader. You grab a shell, slam it in. Otto fires again. The explosion echoes through the trees, bouncing back like a voice repeating itself. Then silence again. Smoke curls through the trees. The snow drifts down, slow and unbothered, covering the footprints, the shell casings, the fire's remains. Otto lowers his scope. Gone. Dead? Fritz asks. Otto shrugs. Gone's enough. You stay alert for another hour, scanning the shadows. Nothing returns. The forest is still. Weber finally says, we move at dawn. That night, you camp inside the Tiger. No one speaks much. Emil cleans the radio again. Fritz hums quietly to himself. Otto writes in his little notebook. Weber sits in the hatch, watching the moonlight filter through the branches. You close your eyes and listen. The wind moves through the trees with a sound almost like whispering. Words you can't understand, soft and endless. Echoes. Maybe from the men who fought here. Maybe from the ones you just buried under snow. You fall asleep to that sound, the forest breathing around you, the Tiger humming beneath you, and dream of voices calling from between the trees. By morning, the forest is gone. Or rather, you've left it behind, replaced by a flat expanse of land so wide and empty that it feels like the end of the world. The sky hangs low, a solid ceiling of gray that presses down on everything beneath it. The Tiger rolls slow and steady through the open plain, her treads whispering across frozen mud. The silence is unnerving. You've grown used to the closeness of trees, the comfort of cover. Out here, there's nowhere to hide. Every sound travels for kilometers. The creak of the suspension, the hum of the engine, even the faint rattle of loose tools in their compartments. Weber sits in the hatch, scanning the horizon through binoculars. His breath turns to steam in the cold air. Visibility's good, he says quietly. Too good. Fritz doesn't look up from the controls. I prefer bad visibility. At least then I can pretend no one's watching. Otto smirks. Someone's always watching. Emil adjusts the radio again, frowning at the static. Still no signal from command. Nothing but ghosts. Ghosts make better company anyway, Fritz mutters. You glance out through the periscope. The land stretches endlessly ahead. Fields long dead, trees burned to black stumps, fences collapsed beneath snow. Once maybe this was farmland. Now it's just ruin and wind. You feel the first tremor before you hear it. A faint vibration through the steel floor, subtle but real. The engine tone wavers slightly. Fritz frowns. You feel that. Everyone goes still. Then, boom. A distant explosion to the east. Another. The horizon flickers orange for a split second, like lightning trapped under the clouds. Artillery. Otto lowers his scope. That's not random shelling. That's a barrage. Weber doesn't reply right away. He watches the smoke rising in the distance. We're close to the front again. Again? Fritz groans. I thought we were the front. The radio crackles suddenly, fragments of shouting, coordinates, then static. Emil turns the dial, his face pale. That's our frequency. What did they say, you ask? He swallows. Something about withdrawal. And fire from the east. A lot of it. Weber closes his map. Red steamroller. You've heard the phrase before. You'd hoped it was just rumor. Fritz revs the engine. Orders? We hold, Weber says. We find high ground, set a firing arc, and we hold until nightfall. It's the same order every time. Simple. Crawl. You crest a small ridge overlooking a valley. Beyond it, the horizon glows faintly red, not from sunset, but from burning fields. The light flickers in waves, pulsing through the smoke like a heartbeat. You can't tell where the sky ends and the fire begins. Fritz parks the Tiger at the ridge. Otto swings the turret into position, scanning the valley below. Movement, he says after a moment. Vehicles, several. Hard to tell distance. How many? Weber asks. Otto hesitates. Enough. The rest of the crew goes quiet. You check the shell rack, 5 rounds left. That number has become a prayer, a countdown, a promise. Each shell gleams faintly in the dull light. Emil tunes the radio again, hoping for orders, for a voice, for anything human. All he gets is static. Fritz exhales slowly. Guess it's just us then. You hear them before you see them. The low hum of engines. Dozens, maybe hundreds, blending into one long rolling roar that makes the air vibrate. The red steamroller. Otto finds them through the scope first, shapes emerging from the haze. Tanks. Trucks. Infantry marching beside them, rifles catching the red light. A wall of movement stretching from one horizon to the other. Weber's voice is steady. Range 800. Wait for the lead tank to cross the ditch. Fritz grips the controls. And if they don't stop, then neither do we. You load the first shell. The casing is cold, heavy, alive in your hands. You slide it into the breech, the motion automatic, intimate, sacred. Auto fires. The recoil slams through the hull. The shell arcs across the valley, vanishing into the smoke. Then a flash. Fire blooms where the lead tank used to be. The shockwave rolls across the plain. Hit, Otto says. Reload, Weber commands. You move fast. Another shell. Another flash. Another hit. But for every tank that burns, 3 more roll forward. The horizon glows brighter, redder. The enemy returns fire. The ground shakes. One shell lands close enough to spray molten dirt across the hull. You duck instinctively. The Tiger growls, shuddering but unbroken. Inside it's chaos. The heat. The noise. The smell of cordite and diesel and fear. Otto fires again and again. Fritz curses under his breath, adjusting angles, trying to keep your nose downhill. Emil shouts over the din, 2 more rounds. Make them count, Weber answers. You do. The 4th shell finds another tank, turning it into a plume of orange against the dark. The 5th misses, glancing off a rise. The last one sits heavy in the rack. You can feel everyone's eyes on it. Weber doesn't give the order right away. He watches the horizon. The red light dances across his face, painting him in flame. Then quietly, fire. Otto pulls the trigger. The world goes white, then black. When your hearing returns, the valley is still burning, but the enemy line has slowed. Just for a moment. Just enough. Weber exhales. That's it. We're dry. No one says a word. Outside, the fire spreads, licking at the horizon, casting long shadows across the snow. The sky itself seems to be on fire now. You stare through the periscope. Tanks, men, machines, all swallowed by the same red glow. The red horizon. You think about what Otto said once, that engines sound different when they die. Maybe the world does too. By dawn, the world smells like ash. The sky is pale gray streaked with red, and the horizon still glows faintly where the night's fires never stopped. The Tiger sits in silence, her armor scorched, her barrel blackened, her treads half buried in soot. No one speaks for a long time. The air inside feels heavy, too thick with breath and smoke to move through. Fritz is slumped in the driver's seat, staring at the frozen ground through the slit in the front plate. Otto sits cross-legged near the breech, polishing the gun even though there's nothing left to fire. Emil adjusts the radio again and again, trying to find a frequency that isn't just static. Weber's voice comes from above, low and even. Pack what you can. We're moving west. The word west lands like a confession. You look up sharply. West. Fritz repeats. That's back. Weber doesn't look down. Orders from what's left of command. We regroup behind the secondary line. Fritz laughs once bitterly. Regroup. Right. With what? Whatever's still standing, Weber replies. No one argues, because everyone knows what the word really means. Retreat. It isn't dramatic. There's no trumpet, no shouting, no panic. Just motion, quiet, steady, resigned. The Tiger rumbles to life, her engine coughing through the cold. You all know she's running on fumes again, but no one says it. The ground is black mud beneath a layer of dirty snow. The air still tastes faintly of burning fuel. You drive past the remains of last night's battlefield, craters, wrecks, corpses half buried in frost. The smoke rises in lazy curls, curling toward a sun that refuses to warm anything. Otto mutters, looks like the world's been erased. You don't disagree. For hours you drive without speaking. Every kilometer feels longer than the last. The Tiger moves slower now, her left tread squealing on every turn. You can hear the complaint in her bones. She's done her job. Too well. Around noon, you pass what used to be a command post. A few tents ripped apart by shell fire, papers scattered across the ground like snow. Fritz stops the tank long enough for Weber to climb out and search the wreckage. He returns with a half-burned map and a small box of rations. That's it, he says simply. Guess we're eating paper for dinner, Fritz mutters. You keep moving. Later, you spot other shapes moving west. Trucks, field guns, even horses pulling carts stacked with ammunition and wounded men. A slow, ragged procession. Nobody looks at each other. You all share the same understanding. No one's leading this retreat. You're just trying to stay ahead of what's coming. Emil finally gets a signal. His voice cracks as he calls out, transmission from headquarters. They're falling back across the river. Secondary line is collapsing. Repeat, collapsing. Weber closes his eyes briefly, then nods. Then we move faster. The road ahead winds through a village you recognize, or what's left of it. 2 weeks ago you passed through here on your way east. Back then there were houses, fences, smoke from chimneys. Now everything's broken. The well has collapsed. The church steeple is gone. The only sound is the Tiger's engine, echoing down empty streets. You see signs of life, sort of. A woman with a shawl leading a child through the snow. A man pushing a cart full of firewood in silence. None of them look up when the tank passes. Fritz says softly, they don't even flinch anymore. They've seen too many of us, Emil replies. You keep driving until the road narrows between two hills. The map says there should be a bridge ahead, but when you reach it, it's gone. Just a jagged cliff of earth and a frozen stream below. Fritz kills the engine. That's it. End of the road. Weber studies the gap. We'll go around. Through where? Otto asks, gesturing at the snow-choked woods to the north. Weber doesn't answer right away. He folds the map slowly, deliberately. We'll find a way. He always says that. And somehow he's always right. You skirt the edge of the forest, the Tiger pushing through drifts that swallow her treads. The branches scrape against the turret with a sound like fingernails on glass. The light fades early again, sun swallowed by smoke and distance. When you finally stop for the night, you find shelter beneath the ruins of a barn. The Tiger barely fits inside, her gun barrel jutting through a hole in the roof. The walls groan with every gust of wind. Fritz starts a small fire in an old metal bucket. The flames flicker weakly, throwing light across tired faces. Emil opens a tin of beans, divides it evenly. Otto writes something in his notebook, the pencil scratching softly. No one mentions the word retreat again. But it hangs there in every silence, in every glance. Weber stands at the edge of the barn, looking out toward the east. The sky beyond the trees glows faintly red again. Always red. They're coming, he says quietly. Do we fight? Fritz asks. Weber turns back toward the tank, his expression unreadable. We hold until the Tiger stops breathing. You look at the machine beside you, scarred, smoking, indestructible and dying all at once. Maybe that's what you all are now. You lean back against the side of the turret, the steel still warm from the engine. Outside, the wind howls across the fields, carrying the faint echo of distant engines. The war hasn't ended. It's just catching up. And tomorrow you'll start moving again. Not forward, not backward, just away. Dawn creeps up pale and indifferent. The Tiger's engine growls reluctantly to life, coughing black smoke into the frozen air. Fritz sits hunched at the controls, rubbing warmth into his fingers. Emil's radio spits static, like the ghost of a conversation that refuses to die. Otto checks the optics one last time, wiping the lenses with a corner of his scarf. Weber climbs halfway out of the hatch, his breath clouding in front of him. "Convoys ahead," he says. "2 trucks, maybe 3. Supply or evac. We'll follow." You nod. There's no plan anymore, just direction. West. Always west. The Tiger lumbers onto the road, treads grinding ice into powder. In the distance you spot them, a line of shapes barely visible through the haze. 2 trucks with canvas flapping loose, 1 armored car missing a tire, and behind them a wagon pulled by a horse that looks as tired as you feel. The convoy moves slow. Too slow. Fritz mutters under his breath. "We could push them faster with our treads." Weber doesn't respond. He's scanning the horizon again, eyes sharp despite the fatigue. "Patience," he says. "There's safety in numbers." You pass the time watching the landscape roll by, fields that once held wheat now frozen under sheets of dirty snow. The trees stand bare, skeletal, branches like bones reaching into the sky. Every so often you see something that used to be a house. Just a roof. A wall. A doorway that leads nowhere. Emil finally gets a signal on the radio. A single voice, faint but clear. "Supply column 14. Ambushed near rail line. Survivors heading west. Avoid main road." Then static again. Weber frowns. "That's not far from here." "Ambushed?" Otto asks. "Likely artillery. Maybe air." You all glance up instinctively. The sky is empty, but you can't help it. The memory of wings still lingers in every silence. The convoy halts at midday near a burned-out farmhouse. Fritz kills the engine. You climb out to stretch, boots crunching on ice and cinders. The air smells faintly of oil and old smoke. A corporal from the lead truck approaches, mud-spattered, eyes sunken. "You're the Tiger from the 505th? Weber nods. "Good. We could use your gun if we get hit again." Weber's expression doesn't change. "You have ammo?" "Not much, but we've got wounded and fuel barrels. Orders are to reach the next depot intact. Then we'll escort you." The corporal salutes weakly and trudges back. You look toward the trucks. The canvas sides flap open in the wind, revealing silhouettes of men, bandaged, motionless, stacked like cordwood. You count at least 10, maybe more. Fritz whistles softly. "Intact," he murmurs. When the convoy starts again, the Tiger takes the rear. Snow begins to fall, soft, steady, almost peaceful. It mutes the engine's growl, makes the whole world sound distant. You can almost imagine the war has ended, until you hear it. A faint thump, then another. Distant at first, then closer. Fritz stiffens. Artillery? Weber peers through his binoculars. Maybe probing fire. Range test. Another thump. Closer this time. You hear the whistle before the impact, a rising shriek that seems to tear the sky open. The shell lands ahead of the convoy, throwing dirt and snow in every direction. "Move!" Weber barks. The trucks lurch forward. The Tiger growls and surges after them, her treads biting into mud and ice. You see the next shell hit, this one near the wagon. The horse rears, screaming. The wagon flips, spilling crates across the road. Fritz swerves the Tiger around it, mud spraying in wide arcs. Otto climbs into the cupola, scanning for muzzle flashes. You see them, on a ridge 2 kilometers away. Just specks, but enough. Range 1900. Otto calls. You load a shell, one of the last few armor-piercing rounds. The Tiger's barrel swings toward the ridge. Fire. The recoil slams through the hull. You can't see the impact, but the flashes vanish. "Hit," Otto mutters. "Maybe." Weber doesn't wait. Keep the convoy moving. The trucks speed up, tires skidding across the icy road. Fritz curses as the Tiger fishtails, then steadies her. Snow whips through the air, thicker now, blinding. By the time you clear the ridge, the shelling has stopped. Only silence remains, broken, uneasy silence. The convoy regroups near a line of trees. One truck is gone. So is the wagon. The rest press on slower now. You don't ask what happened to the missing men. You already know. As night falls, you set up camp beside a frozen stream. The convoy parks in a loose circle. Fires flicker weakly. The wounded moan softly in the back of the trucks. You sit with your crew near the Tiger, eating cold bread and watching your breath drift upward like smoke. Fritz breaks the silence first. Feels like we're escorting ghosts. Weber nods once. Maybe we are. The snow falls heavier now, burying the tracks, the craters, the blood. By morning it will all be gone, wiped clean like none of it ever happened. But you'll remember. You always do. You look at the Tiger, her turret dark against the firelight. She's silent, but you can almost hear her heartbeat under the steel. And you know, ghosts don't haunt places. They haunt people. Tomorrow you'll keep moving. West again. Because there's nowhere else left to go. The next day the world smells like wet iron and smoke. The snow has melted into sludge, and the air tastes of thawing metal. The Tiger rolls forward in the gray dawn, leading the remnants of the convoy along a river that winds through the valley like a scar. No one speaks. The engine's hum fills the silence, steady but tired. The Tiger's once smooth rhythm now rattles slightly with each turn of the treads, like a cough she's trying to hide. Fritz drives hunched over, jaw set, eyes bloodshot. Otto sits in the turret, scanning the fogged landscape through his scope. Emil's radio crackles with nothing but faint static. The river beside you is half frozen, wide sheets of ice floating over black water. Smoke rises from the far bank where something burns, distant but large. Could be a village, or what's left of one. Weber studies it through his binoculars. We stay on this side, he says. Too exposed to cross. Too muddy to climb if we have to retreat, Fritz mutters. Weber ignores him. There's a bridge upstream. We'll check if it's intact. You follow the curve of the river for an hour. The fog thickens until the Tiger feels like she's swimming through milk. Every sound is muted, the churn of the treads, the low whistle of the wind, even your own breathing. Then faintly you hear it, engines. Not yours. Contact. Otto whispers. Maybe, Weber says. Hold. You stop the Tiger behind a copse of skeletal birch trees. The convoy halts behind you. The world holds its breath. The sound grows louder, a deep, throaty rumble echoing through the mist. Then shapes emerge. Tanks. Not German. They move along the far bank, dark silhouettes crawling through smoke, their tracks cutting the river ice like knives. You count 4, maybe 5. T-34s most likely. The sound of their engines vibrates through the ground. Fritz exhales slowly. They're on the other side. Maybe they'll stay there. But one of them stops. Its turret turns, slowly, deliberately, until the barrel points across the river. Toward you. Down? Weber shouts. The Tiger jolts to life. Fritz throws her into gear, backing into the tree line as a shell slams into the ground where you just were. The explosion sends a wave of dirt and ice over the hull. You hear the metallic ping of fragments bouncing off the armor. Return fire? Otto asks. Weber hesitates. Not unless we can see the gun. You wipe frost from your periscope. The enemy tanks are ghosts in the fog, half visible, half imagined. You can't tell which direction they're aiming. Another shell lands close, splintering a tree beside you. Now, Weber orders. Otto lines up the shot, exhaling through his nose. You feed the shell into the breech, slam it shut, and brace. Fire. The Tiger roars. The recoil rocks the hull, shoving you back against the wall. Through the haze, you see one of the silhouettes vanish behind a plume of fire and steam. Hit. Otto yells. The others scatter along the opposite bank, their guns flashing in response. The air fills with smoke and thunder. You reload. Fire again. The Tiger's gun spits fire into the fog, each round carving a hole in the silence. After the 4th shot, the return fire stops. The fog closes in again. The river hisses as chunks of burning debris melt through the ice. Cease, Weber says. They're pulling back. You listen. Nothing. Just the groan of shifting ice and the crackle of distant flames. Status. Weber asks. Tracks intact, Fritz replies. Cupola dented. That's all. You exhale for the first time in minutes. The crew moves automatically, checking systems, wiping soot, resetting tools. Habit keeps you alive. By noon, the fog begins to lift. The far bank is empty now, save for one burning wreck, AT-34 lying half submerged, black smoke curling from its hull. The river carries the ash away in slow spirals, downstream toward nowhere. Weber stares at it a long time. Let's move before they come back. The Tiger rolls forward again, past the smoldering wreck. The convoy follows, engines whining in the chill air. You reach the bridge by evening. It's barely standing, half collapsed, sagging under its own weight. Fritz tests it with the Tiger's nose. The wood groans but holds. One at a time, Weber says. The first truck crosses. Boards creak. Ropes strain. But it makes it. The second follows, slower. You wait your turn, watching the river churn below. The ice moves like breath. Finally, Weber signals. Go. Fritz eases the Tiger forward. The bridge shudders under 60 tons of steel. Every plank seems to scream. You grip the turret rail, eyes fixed on the far bank. Halfway across, a board snaps. The tank dips, then steadies. The sound echoes like a gunshot. Keep her straight, Weber murmurs. Fritz doesn't blink. He drives as if the road were made of glass. Another creak. Another groan. Then, with one last heave, the Tiger climbs onto solid ground. Everyone exhales at once. Behind you, the bridge collapses into the river with a slow, weary sigh. Smoke from the wrecked T-34 drifts into the twilight sky. Otto watches it fade. River of smoke, he says quietly. Fitting. You don't disagree. The war flows like that river, slow, endless, full of ghosts. That night, you camp on the western bank. The convoy's fires flicker along the shore, tiny lights swallowed by fog. The Tiger sits silent and proud, her hull streaked with mud and ash. You lean against her side, feeling the faint warmth of the engine through the steel. The air is still. The stars hide behind the smoke. Somewhere far downstream, another battle burns. And the river keeps carrying it all away. Morning comes without color. Just a flat, gray light spilling over the ruins and a silence so deep it feels deliberate. The Tiger wakes slowly, the engine rumbling like an old man clearing his throat. You've slept maybe 2 hours, curled against the breech for warmth. The metal still radiates yesterday's heat. One small mercy in a landscape that's forgotten what warmth is. Weber's already up. He's outside, crouched over a torn map spread on the Tiger's front glacis. His breath fogs over the paper, obscuring the lines that no longer match reality. Fritz hands him a mug of something hot. You think it's coffee until the smell hits you. It's fuel boiled with water and sugar. A soldier's breakfast. The convoy's smaller now. One truck left, half its canvas ripped, carrying men who no longer talk. They sit upright, staring straight ahead, eyes glazed like museum statues. Emil checks the radio again, though you all know what he'll hear. Static, maybe the faint hum of a voice too far to matter. Route west, Fritz asks. Weber folds the map. There's a supply road parallel to the railway. Should lead to a town, Garov, or what's left of it. Supplies. Otto asks, already knowing the answer. Weber shrugs. If we're lucky, a barrel or two. Maybe bread. Bread, Fritz repeats, smiling faintly. I'd settle for something that pretends to be bread. You move out before sunrise. The Tiger leads, the truck following close behind, headlights hooded. The road, if you can call it that, is nothing more than a scar through the countryside. Burned out cars line the ditches, frozen corpses inside, their helmets dusted with snow. Crows pick at the remains. For a long time, no one speaks. The only sounds are the rhythmic grind of treads and the distant echo of artillery, soft, constant, like a heartbeat that never stops. Then Otto breaks the silence. You notice the smell? Fritz sniffs. Burnt rubber? Wood smoke, Otto says. But no fires nearby. You lean toward the viewing slit. The air does smell strange, sweet and acrid, drifting from somewhere ahead. Emil checks his compass. Winds from the east. Maybe a village burning. Or an ammo dump, Weber says. A kilometer later, you find the source. The railway line cuts through a small valley, and on its edge lies what used to be Garov, or something like it. The town's gone, replaced by blackened husks and piles of ash. The wooden houses are nothing but ribs, roofs caved in, chimneys standing like grave markers. The church is still visible, its steeple collapsed, its bell half buried in the mud. Fritz slows the Tiger. Jesus. You can see movement among the ruins. Not soldiers. Civilians. A handful of them digging through rubble with bare hands. One man looks up as the Tiger approaches. His face is pale, streaked with soot. He doesn't flinch, just watches. Weber signals Fritz to stop. You halt at the town's edge. Stay sharp, Weber says, scanning the rooftops. Could be partisans. Or just people trying to live, Otto mutters. Weber doesn't answer. He climbs down anyway, his boots sinking into the ash. You follow. The ground feels soft, spongy, like stepping on memory. One of the townspeople, a woman wrapped in a burnt shawl, walks up. She looks old, but maybe she's not. War ages everyone. She points toward a row of barrels near what's left of a barn. Fuel, she says in broken German. Yours maybe? Weber nods slowly. How much? She shrugs. Enough. You and Fritz roll 2 barrels to the Tiger. They're half full, heavy and precious. Fritz grins despite himself. Liquid gold. Emil finds a working pump, siphons the fuel carefully. The smell of diesel fills the air, sharp, alive. Even Otto smiles. She'll purr again. You give the woman a tin of beans in exchange. She accepts it with a quiet nod. No words. No thanks. Just understanding. Before you leave, Weber asks her, "What happened here?" She stares at the horizon. "Both sides," she says finally. One burned, the other buried. Then she turns away. You climb back into the Tiger, uneasy. Fritz starts the engine. The rumble fills the valley, drowning out the silence. As you leave Garov, you glance back through the hatch. The people are already fading into the haze, gray figures in a gray world, sifting through ashes for something worth saving. Hours later, the road narrows between 2 ridges. You can smell it again, that burnt sweetness. The air is darker here, tinted with smoke. Fritz slows instinctively. Then you see it, wrecks ahead. Dozens of them. Trucks, half-tracks, even a few panzers. All burned. All still. A destroyed convoy. The Tiger stops. You can feel everyone's eyes on Weber. He studies the wrecks, then the empty sky. No craters, he says quietly. Not artillery. Otto adjusts his scope. Airstrike. The word hangs there. Heavy. Fritz mutters, "Let's not stay long enough for an encore." You weave through the remains, twisted steel, blackened corpses still strapped in their seats. A field hospital truck lies on its side, the Red Cross scorched black. Keep eyes up, Weber says. But the sky stays empty. For now. By dusk, you find a ridge overlooking another valley. The smoke follows you, trailing like a shadow. You park the Tiger beneath an outcrop, the engine ticking softly as it cools. Fritz opens a tin of cold stew. Otto lights a cigarette. Emil hums faintly, though he doesn't know the tune. Weber sits apart, watching the valley below. You follow his gaze. The road continues west, lined with broken vehicles and fires still smoldering. It looks endless, like a procession of ghosts marching home. The ash road, Weber says finally. That's what this is now. You nod, because he's right. The Tiger sleeps with her barrel pointed toward the setting sun, the light glinting off the scratches and dents that tell your whole story. And for the first time you realize this road doesn't lead away from war. It just leads deeper into what's left of it. The next morning begins in silence, too still, too empty. The Tiger's engine takes 3 tries to start, coughing smoke before settling into a low, uneven growl. Fritz pats the console as if soothing an old animal. Come on, girl. Just a little farther. You roll out before sunrise, westward again, following what remains of the road. The snow has turned to slush, and the mud glistens like spilled oil. Otto sits behind the gun, eyes fixed ahead through the cracked periscope. Emil leans against the radio, tapping the casing every few minutes, trying to shake life from static. Weber checks his map, though everyone knows the lines on it have long stopped meaning anything. After an hour, you see the first sign of what might still pass for structure. A collapsed hangar, its roof folded inward like paper. Rusted barrels stand in crooked rows nearby, some still marked with faded stencils, Benzin Oel Gafar. Fuel. Or what used to be fuel. Weber signals Fritz to stop. We'll check it. You climb out. The wind bites hard, carrying the faint smell of gasoline mixed with decay. Fritz pries open one of the barrels. Empty. Another. Half full but waterlogged. The third dry rust. Nothing left, Fritz mutters. Emil kneels beside an overturned crate and brushes away the frost. Inside, ration tins, unopened, stamped with dates from last year. He exhales in disbelief. Still sealed. Fritz grins. See? The gods of logistics remembered us. Barely, Weber says. You split the tins between the crew, stale bread, beans, something that might be meat if you don't think about it too much. Tastes like victory anyway. While you eat, Weber studies the hangar's shadowed interior. This was a refueling post, he says. Last one before the northern route. Otto wipes his hands. And after that? Weber looks at him, then at the horizon. After that, nothing. The words hang there, simple and final. You finish eating in silence. Then Fritz gestures toward a half-buried storage shed. Might be parts in there. Together, you dig through debris, shattered wood, bent metal, old tools frozen to the ground. Then, against all logic, you find something miraculous. 2 intact jerry cans, their seals unbroken. You lift one, it sloshes. Fuel. Otto whistles. If that's real, I'll pray tonight. Fritz opens the cap, sniffs, then smiles wide. Diesel. Actual diesel. You fill the Tiger's reserves, carefully, reverently. Every drop feels like time stolen from fate. When you're done, Weber climbs onto the hull and looks west. The sun's higher now, weak and pale. Smoke drifts along the valley like a memory that refuses to fade. There's a depot beyond the ridge, he says. Maybe still standing. We check it. If it's gone, we turn south. South. Fritz asks. That's swamps. We'll take mud over artillery. You move again. The Tiger rumbles up the ridge, treads crunching frozen soil. The road bends sharply, then opens onto a plateau. And there it is, the depot. Or what's left of it. Several buildings, roofs half collapsed. A train track running through, ending abruptly at a crater. Tankers scattered like toys. One still burns, sending a thin column of smoke into the sky. Fritz whistles low. Looks like someone beat us to it. Weber narrows his eyes. Maybe not long ago. You all sense it, something uneasy in the air. Emil's radio crackles faintly. A voice, distant and broken. Depot Bravo, under attack, coordinates, then static. Friendly? Otto asks. Doesn't matter, Weber replies. They're gone. The Tiger rolls into the yard. The smell hits first, diesel, smoke, blood. You pass 2 trucks burned down to their frames, a third flipped over near the track. Bodies everywhere, German uniforms, some Soviet. A battle that ended fast. Fritz mutters, so much for supplies. Then Emil points. There. Behind a half-collapsed storage shed stands a single fuel wagon, bullet holes peppered across its side, but still upright. You approach carefully. The ground is littered with shell casings, spent and gleaming in the frost. Weber climbs up and checks the hatch. It's sealed. Fritz grins. Another miracle? Weber nods. Half a tank. Enough for 100 kilometers, maybe more. The crew works fast, siphoning the fuel into the Tiger's reserves. Every sound, the slosh of liquid, the hiss of pressure release, feels sacred. As you work, Otto keeps watch from the turret. Movement, he warns. You freeze. Shapes flicker at the far edge of the yard, figures darting between ruins. Too small to be tanks. Too quick. Partisans, Weber mutters. Maybe scavengers. Or both, Fritz adds. You finish the transfer, seal the caps, climb back inside. Weber gives the order. Move. Now. The Tiger roars to life, rolling out through the shattered gate. Behind you, gunfire cracks. Small arms, wild, desperate. Bullets ping against the hull, harmless against her armor. Fritz doesn't even flinch. Once you reach open ground, Weber orders a halt. No pursuit. You look back. The depot burns brighter now, flames licking the sky. The last depot reduced to ash. Otto lights a cigarette, exhales through his nose. All that fuel and no one left to use it. Fritz laughs softly. We used ours. You all fall silent, watching the smoke rise. The Tiger idles quietly, her hull still warm. You rest a hand on the side plate, feeling the faint vibration of life beneath your palm. The last depot gave you one more chance. But the way ahead, it's still endless, still west. And somewhere beyond the smoke, the war keeps waiting. The morning after the depot burns, the air tastes of soot and frost. The Tiger crawls forward through a plain so wide it feels like you're driving across an ocean of mud. There's no road anymore, just faint ruts frozen into the earth, pointing vaguely west. The sky is white and low, pressing down like a lid. The sound of the engine fills the void. Fritz drives hunched over, muttering to himself, eyes red from smoke and exhaustion. Otto's gone quiet again, sitting beside the 88mm like a priest beside a coffin. Emil listens to the radio, though all it gives him now is a heartbeat of static. Weber stands in the cupola, scanning with those old binoculars that haven't been clear in weeks. Then you see them. Shapes on the horizon. At first they look like trees. Then they move. Trucks, half-tracks, a few panzers, limping west, a broken column of survivors. Fritz exhales, a sound between relief and disbelief. Finally, someone's still alive. Weber lifts his binoculars. Looks like what's left of the 12th Armored. Left, Otto says quietly. That's the word these days. As you close the distance, you start to see the details. Shattered armor plates patched with tarps, engines running on fumes, faces hollowed out by cold and smoke. The column isn't marching, it's staggering. A sergeant waves you over. His uniform is filthy, one sleeve pinned up where an arm should be. Fuel? He asks. Some, Weber replies. He nods, too tired to hope. We've got wounded. And orders to reach the river crossings before nightfall. If they're still there. Where's command? Weber asks. The sergeant laughs, a dry, humorless sound. Command's a rumor, sir. You joined the column anyway. Safety in numbers, if not direction. The Tiger takes position near the middle, her engine growling steady among the chorus of weaker machines. For a while, it feels almost normal, like the old days of the push east before everything turned backward. But then the column stops. A scout car up ahead signals trouble. Fritz kills the engine and silence rushes in again, thick and absolute. Weber climbs out, gestures for Otto and you to follow. You walk up the line, boots sinking into frozen slush. When you reach the front, you see it, the road ahead blocked by wreckage. Trucks smashed into each other, metal twisted like paper. Smoke still rises from one of them. Ambush? Otto asks. Looks like it, Weber replies. Probably hit yesterday. A few soldiers are already moving the bodies aside. You help because there's nothing else to do. The corpses are stiff, faces gray and blank. One of them still holds a field phone, the cord cut clean through. As you drag another body to the ditch, you notice tracks leading into the woods. Tank treads, deep and wide. You call out, Captain, these aren't ours. Weber kneels beside the trail. The grooves are fresh, maybe hours old. He touches the frozen mud, then looks toward the tree-line. T-34s, he says softly. A platoon at least. Otto frowns. They're flanking us? Or waiting for us to move, Weber replies. The sergeant from the other unit joins you. We can't stop here. If they loop behind, we're boxed in. Weber nods. Then we move. Fast. Back in the Tiger, Fritz mutters under his breath as he restarts the engine. Fast, he says. In a 60-ton beast. The column begins to crawl forward again. Slower this time, every head turned toward the forest. You feel it too, the weight of unseen eyes. The Tiger's turret swivels side to side, Otto scanning for motion. And then it comes. The first shell lands on the far edge of the convoy, a direct hit on a truck carrying ammo. The explosion rips the sky open, a bloom of orange fire and black smoke. The shockwave rocks the Tiger, rattling loose bolts and nerves alike. Contact left flank. Weber yells. Fritz floors it, the Tiger lurching into a roar. The convoy scatters. Some vehicles veer off the road, others stop dead. You see muzzle flashes in the trees. The Soviets have the high ground. Otto locks onto one of the flashes. Range 900. Firing. The 88mm cracks like thunder. A plume of dirt and smoke erupts from the tree line. Another flash, another shot. You reload fast, muscle memory overriding fear. The Tiger's gun speaks again, echoing across the frozen plain. Around you, chaos unfolds. Trucks burning. Men shouting. A half-track tumbles into a ditch, its crew scrambling free. The air smells of cordite and gasoline. You fire again. And again. The forest falls silent. Only the flames remain, licking at the edges of the snow. Weber peers through the smoke. They're pulling back. Otto wipes sweat from his face. Or repositioning. Either way, the road ahead is open again. By the time the last truck clears the wreckage, the sun is setting. The horizon glows red, and the smoke from the ambush hangs in the air like a curtain. You regroup on higher ground, A shallow ridge overlooking the valley. The column smaller now. 2 trucks gone. A dozen men missing. Fritz parks the Tiger beside a burned-out Panzer and kills the engine. The sudden quiet feels unnatural. Weber steps out and surveys what's left. We keep moving after dark. We can't stop here. Fuel? Emil asked. Half a tank. That's half a miracle, Fritz mutters. The night wind rises, cold and sharp. Sparks from the fires dance through the air like insects. Otto stands by the gun, hands steady but eyes distant. You look down the line, broken vehicles, wounded men, silhouettes against the smoke. The broken column. A parade of ghosts heading nowhere. As darkness settles, you climb back inside the Tiger. Fritz lights the dashboard with a flick of his lighter, the flame trembling as if nervous to stay alive. You can hear Weber outside giving quiet orders. The same words repeated again and again. Keep moving. Don't stop. And so you do. The Tiger leads once more, her treads crunching softly through the frozen mud. Behind you, the fires fade into the night. Ahead, only shadows. And the sound of engines trying not to die. By morning, the world feels hollow. The fires from the ambush have burned themselves out, leaving only blackened frames and a haze that refuses to lift. The Tiger moves at half speed now, her treads clogged with ice and clay. Every sound, every creak, every cough from the engine, echoes too loudly in the emptiness. The column has dwindled to almost nothing. 2 trucks remain, 1 armored car missing a wheel, and your Tiger, leading like an exhausted shepherd. The men in the other vehicles no longer wave or shout. They stare straight ahead as if afraid to look anywhere else. The road dips into a valley. A long, shallow stretch of frozen earth surrounded by tree-covered ridges. Fritz eyes the slope warily. Looks like a trap. Weber studies the map. It's the only route through. We cross fast. You can't tell if he's confident or just pretending. The Tiger descends first. The snow here is untouched. No tracks, no prints, just white silence. Even the wind seems to hold its breath. Otto adjusts the sight on the 88mm, scanning the ridgelines. No movement, he says. No glint. No heat. Nothing. Nothing, Fritz repeats. That's the problem. The valley narrows as you advance, hemmed in by hills that rise like walls. The convoy follows behind, engines muted, tires crunching softly. You can hear your own heartbeat in your ears. Halfway through, the radio crackles. Emil jumps. Say again? Static. Then a faint voice. Contact unknown. Pull back. Then silence. Weber leans over his shoulder. Where did that come from? Couldn't tell, Emil whispers. Weber hesitates, then gestures forward. Keep moving. You pass the remnants of an old farmhouse. Just the stone foundation and the skeleton of a roof. A scarecrow leans beside it, half buried in snow, its face burned away. Otto mutters something about bad omens. Fritz doesn't laugh. Then the sound reaches you. Not engines. Not artillery. Just wind, except it's wrong. Too steady. Too deep. Engines? Emil asked. Weber shakes his head. No, that's... He doesn't finish. The ground trembles. Just slightly at first, then stronger. A low vibration you can feel through the soles of your boots. Up top. Otto shouts. You swing the gun toward the ridge. For a moment, nothing. Then, movement. Dark shapes cresting the hill. T-34s. At least 4. Ambush. Weber barks. You slam the hatch shut. Fritz throws the Tiger into gear, treads clawing at the frozen ground. The convoy behind you panics. Engines revving, wheels spinning in mud. The first shell lands short, sending a fountain of ice and dirt across the Tiger's bow. The second hits one of the trucks. The blast turns it into a fireball, fragments raining down like meteors. Range 1100. Otto calls. Fire. Weber shouts. The Tiger roars. The shot slams into the nearest ridge, taking a Soviet tank with it. Smoke and flame burst upward. You reload instantly. Another shot. Another flash. But there are more. Always more. One T-34 pushes down the slope, gun blazing. Its shell slams into the valley floor, showering you with frozen mud. Fritz curses, jerking the wheel hard right. The Tiger's treads grip, slide, then catch again. Otto adjusts aim. Firing. The 88mm bellows. The T-34 erupts, turret flipping into the air like a coin tossed by the gods. 2 down. Otto yells. Weber peers through his binoculars. 2 more on the right flank. Emil shouts over the radio, trying to raise the convoy. They're hit. Both trucks gone. Then it's just us, Fritz mutters. The valley fills with smoke. Fire. The air burns your lungs with every breath. You load the 3rd shell, hands shaking from the vibration. Left ridge. Otto calls. Fire. The shot connects. You see the enemy tank jerk, then fall silent. Only one remains. It fires blind into the haze, desperate. The shell strikes near your left track, rocking the Tiger violently. Alarms wail. The treads grind but hold. Damage? Weber shouts. Suspension stiff, Fritz says, but she's alive. Finish it. Otto lines up, exhales. Goodbye. The Tiger's final shot splits the morning. The last T-34 vanishes in a cloud of smoke and shrapnel. Silence. Real silence. No echo, no movement, no return fire. Just the hiss of steam rising from the wrecks. You sit back, chest heaving, ears ringing. The whole crew breathes as one, shallow, cautious, disbelieving. Weber opens the hatch. The air outside is sharp and clean again, carrying the faint smell of burnt oil and snow. He looks around slowly, scanning the ridges. Nothing moves. Clear, he says. Fritz leans back against the driver's seat, eyes closed. You know, he mutters, I think I hate valleys. Otto laughs just once. The sound echoes strangely in the empty landscape. The convoy is gone. Only the Tiger remains, her paint scorched, her barrel steaming. You climb out to breathe the cold air. Around you, the valley is a graveyard. Smoldering tanks, melted snow, black smoke curling into the sky. Weber steps beside you, hands clasped behind his back. This place has no name, he says. It will, you reply. Someone will name it. He nods. Maybe. But not us. You stand there a long time, listening to the faint whisper of wind moving through the wrecks. The valley is silent now. Truly silent. And yet, somehow, it feels alive, like the war itself is holding its breath, waiting for the next heartbeat. The valley still smokes behind you when the Tiger begins her climb. The treads grind over blackened ice, dragging 60 tons of defiance up the ridge, 1 shuddering meter at a time. Fritz keeps her steady, whispering under his breath like he's talking to an animal that might bolt. Otto sits silent, one hand on the elevation wheel, the other wrapped around the notebook he never lets go of. Emil hums softly, though his voice trembles. Weber stands in the hatch, scanning the horizon that never seems to end. There's no radio signal anymore. No other engines. No sky patrols. No map that means anything. You're beyond the lines now, though whether you're behind yours or theirs no one can say. The compass needle wobbles aimlessly like it's tired too. The ridge levels out into a plain covered in thin, patchy snow. It stretches westward, a frozen sea of silence. You all know what it means. This is the end, not in a cinematic burst of fire and glory, but in the slow, grinding way that all things end when the world stops keeping count. Fritz breaks the quiet. We still heading west? Weber answers without looking down. We head until we stop. It's not a command. It's a prayer. The Tiger rolls on. You pass the shells of trucks, their canvas tops flapping like torn flags. A field kitchen overturned in the ditch. A pair of boots half buried in snow. Everything once alive now folded into the landscape, absorbed by the endless gray. Around midday, the fuel gauge dips low again. Fritz taps it and says, 10 kilometers, maybe less. Then we pick a place, Weber says. To die. Fritz asks. To wait, Weber replies. No one argues. The sun, pale and half-ash, begins to sink. Long shadows stretch from the Tiger's hull, bending across the frozen ground like fingers. You reach a small grove of birch trees standing stubbornly in the cold. Fritz slows. Weber nods. Here, he says simply. The Tiger grinds to a halt. The engine idles for a moment, coughing softly, then fades to silence. You sit inside, listening to the click of cooling metal. The world feels enormous without her heartbeat. For a long while, no one moves. Then Weber climbs out. Come, he says. You follow. The air outside is brittle, the kind of cold that snaps in your lungs. The Tiger sits half-shrouded in mist, her barrel pointed east. Always east. Always toward what she was built to destroy. Fritz removes his gloves and touches the armor. She's colder than I thought she'd be. Otto kneels beside the tread, tracing a hand across the metal. She'll stay warm longer than we will. Emil joins you, clutching his radio like a relic. No signal, he says quietly. Just wind. Weber stands in front of the tank, studying her with an expression you can't quite read, part pride, part mourning. She deserves better than to rust in a field. She deserves rest, Otto says. Weber nods. Then let's give it to her. You all set to work not because anyone ordered it but because it feels right. Fritz clears the snow from the hatches. Emil wipes soot from the barrel. Otto folds a piece of torn canvas over the exposed optics. You clean the breech one last time, the smell of oil and gunpowder clinging to your hands. When you're finished, Weber pulls the hatch closed. The sound is soft, final. Inside the Tiger, the air is still warm. You linger in the turret for a moment, running your hand along the worn steel, over the initials carved into the wall, marks of all the men who lived and laughed and swore inside her. Then you climb out. Fritz lights a cigarette and places it gently on the glassy plate, the smoke curling up into the fading light. For luck, he says. Otto tears a strip from his notebook and tucks it under a bolt, just a few words scrawled in pencil. We held. Emil ties a small scrap of cloth to the barrel, white against the gray. A truce with the world. Weber stands last. He looks east, then west, then up at the colorless sky. Face her toward the sunrise, he says quietly. Let her see it before the snow covers her. Fritz and you shift the controls together, coaxing the last of her strength from the gears. The Tiger groans, treads biting once, twice, then locking in place. Her turret creaks as Otto gives her one final turn. When she stops, the barrel points true, eastward, where the light will return first. Weber steps back, salutes her. No words. No orders. Just that. Then the silence returns. You gather your packs, what little you have left, and begin walking. The snow crunches under your boots. No one speaks for the first mile. The Tiger fades behind you, shrinking into the haze until she's just a silhouette against the horizon. Emil breaks the silence. She'll be found one day. Otto nods. They'll paint her, polish her. Put her in a museum. Fritz laughs softly. Good. Let them think she was invincible. You look back one last time. The Tiger stands still, proud, and perfectly alone. The wind moves across her hull, brushing snow over her tracks until she looks almost asleep. Weber keeps walking, his boots leaving sharp, deliberate prints in the snow. She wasn't invincible, he says, but she made us believe we were. And that's enough. The road bends west, down into another valley, smaller this time, quieter. The sky begins to change, gray to amber, amber to pale gold. The first light of dawn touches the Tiger's barrel far behind you. For a moment it glows. You stop and watch until the glow fades. Then you turn away. The war still rumbles somewhere beyond the horizon. But here, in this stillness, it finally feels distant, like thunder from a storm already past. You walk on, each step lighter, each breath softer. Behind you, the Tiger keeps her watch, facing east, waiting for the sun, waiting for peace.